Chapter 982. I will tear you to pieces. The black-haired demon god's eyes had already turned blood red, giving off an extremely terrifying feeling. The aura on his body kept surging as his bloodline power was awakening. It slowly lifted Li Changxing's array formation. He was a descendant of the primordial demon gods and had inherited the divine powers of his ancestors. The primordial demon gods were born from heaven and earth, and he had a connate Tao aptitude. At that moment, he was constantly communicating with the great Tao of heaven and earth, hoping to use the power of the great Tao to break Li Changxing's array formation. Li Changxing knew that if he allowed him to break the array formation, it would be difficult to suppress him again. Therefore, he did not hesitate to cut open his chest and fuse his blood essence into the array formation. Immediately, the array formation's power increased greatly, causing the world to tremble. The true power of the array formation came from borrowing the power of heaven and earth. At that moment, with the fusion of Li Changxing's blood essence, the array formation's power was fully unleashed. At that moment, killing intent soared into the sky. It was as though the world was trembling, as though it was about to be destroyed. The killing intent triggered the great Tao of killing between heaven and earth. The power of laws descended and fused into the array formation. One could vaguely see various weapons emitting killing intent. At that moment, the great Tao of killing in the sky manifested a door that contained endless killing intent. Crack! The black-haired demon god's body kept cracking as blood flowed from his orifices. It was a shocking sight, especially when he had just straightened his body. He knelt down again. The door in the sky cracked open as killing intent poured down like a waterfall. It completely sealed the black-haired demon god's surroundings, cutting off his access to heaven and earth Yuan Qi. I will definitely kill you. The black-haired demon god roared furiously. There was a surging killing intent in his body. He was very angry, and his anger caused the phenomenon of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood to appear behind him. The surrounding spectators were all frightened when they saw this scene. The black-haired demon god was so terrifying, but he was still suppressed by Li Changxing and could not escape. How powerful was Li Changxing? The black-haired demon god suddenly let out a loud roar, and the black hair behind him stood up. Then a red figure stepped out from his body. Although it was somewhat illusory, the instant the red creature appeared, a boundless demonic might burst open a crack in the formation. What is this? Even Li Changxing was frightened. However, he soon discovered that the red shadow was not a real entity. It seemed to be condensed from pure energy. It was a clone. Just the appearance of a clone was enough to break my formation. Just how powerful is his main body? They were the primordial Fian Celestial's avatar, the black-haired Fian Celestial's parents. Li Changxing had a guess. Following the appearance of the red figure, the entire sky was dyed blood red. The spectators felt their hearts palpitate. The primordial demon gods dominated the world in ancient times, and the ancestors of the human race became their food. It was not until the world changed and the primordial demon gods died for unknown reasons that the human race could rise. This primordial demon god phantom was very likely a first or second generation primordial demon god. It had inherited the demon god's comprehension of the world and powerful strength. It might even be a first-generation demon god. One had to know that even Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals had to retreat from the primordial demon gods. No one expected the black-haired demon god to have a protective item, a clone left behind by his father. This could be said to be his greatest trump card, but it was forced out by Li Changxing. As soon as the red shadow appeared, Li Changxing's god-slaying formation began to tremble. An extremely terrifying aura filled the sky. Just the strength of the clone was probably close to the heaven immortal realm. How terrifying was that? The strength of his main body was even more unimaginable. Li Changxing stared at the red shadow, and his hair stood on end. An unprecedented sense of danger rose in his heart. Even if he had the celestial demon 9 transformations, it was still an imitation. This primordial demon god was the original. Li Changxing, You force me. Today, you will definitely die. A crack appeared in the formation, and the black-haired demon god finally stood up straight. The red shadow once again raised its hand and pushed Li Changxing's formation into the sky. At the same time, a cold gaze fell on Li Changxing. Immediately, Li Changxing felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar, and his entire body turned cold. It was too terrifying. Just a glance from him was enough to make him want to flee in defeat. The primordial demon god is indeed extraordinary. Even my god-slaying formation can't trap him. Today, it's already very difficult for me to deal with the black-haired demon god. If he breaks the formation and allows the black-haired demon god to escape, I will definitely not be his match. Li Changxing's mind turned. He knew that this was an unprecedented crisis. At that moment, the figure attacked again, and the crack in the god-slaying formation grew larger. He took a step forward and rushed out of the formation, charging straight at Li Changxing. Li Changxing hurriedly waved the formation, repairing it once again. He knew that he could not let the two join forces. However, just as he was repairing the god-slaying formation, the red shadow had already rushed to his side. Li Changxing hurriedly punched out, but when he punched the avatar, his fist passed through it without hitting anything. Instead, his chest was struck by the other party. He felt a sharp pain as he flew more than 10 meters back. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. The spectators drew a cold gasp. They had already witnessed Li Changxing's strength, but now he was vomiting blood from a single strike. The people from the west turned excited. Li Changxing held his halberd as he stared intently at the red shadow. At that moment, he still had to divert his attention to suppress the black-haired demon god. The red shadow was very strange. It seemed to be a soul body. Therefore, even though Li Changxing's punch had landed on his body, it didn't have any effect. However, Li Changxing was able to injure him. Break! A golden magic sword flew out from between Li Changxing's eyebrows. It was the Jinwu God-slaying sword. It shone with golden light and directly slashed at the red shadow. Sure enough, the red shadow seemed to be afraid of the golden sword and took the initiative to retreat. Li Changxing heaved a sigh of relief. However, in the next second, the red shadow stretched out a finger and pointed at the golden magic sword. The golden magic sword instantly shattered into a pile of light and scattered in all directions. How could this be? Li Changxing felt a sharp pain in between his eyebrows. The Jinwu God-slaying sword was condensed from his consciousness. Now that it was destroyed, although it did not affect him, if he kept using this move, it would eventually cause great harm to him. It seemed that it was not that the Jinwu God-slaying sword could not deal with him, but that his realm was too low. It was like how water could extinguish a fire, but if there was only a bowl of water, it would not be able to extinguish a monstrous fire. At that moment, the red shadow rushed towards Li Changxing again. Even the black-haired demon god suppressed in the god-slaying formation went crazy. He kept attacking the formation, ready to rush out at any time. Li Changxing was instantly in a desperate situation. Chapter 983. Li Changxing was in a desperate situation. The black-haired fiend celestial wanted to escape, but the red figure pounced on him. The red figure was extremely terrifying, putting Li Changxing's life in danger. At that moment, Li Changxing had an epiphany. Human Tao is insignificant, the immortal Tao is vast, and the ghost Tao is joyful. At the door of life, the immortal Tao is noble, and the ghost Tao is noble. High above, clear and refreshing, sad songs fill the universe. In the void, lines of words came out of Li Changxing's mouth. It was the Sutra of Expiation that he had obtained from the Evil Meridian. At that moment, Li Changxing suddenly looked solemn as his voice spread in all directions. Suddenly, an unpredictable force descended. What sutra is this? It makes me want to prostrate myself. It seems to be the Sutra of Expiation, but it's different from the ones circulating in the world. All of a sudden, the red figure stopped and revealed a look of struggle. According to legend, The Sutra of Expiation was written by the Heavenly Lord of Numinous Treasure. The Heavenly Lord of Numinous Treasure was known as the Three Pure Ones on earth and was one of the supreme gods. Li Changxing recalled that the red figure was an avatar of a god-fiend. The black-haired fiend celestial's parents might have passed away long ago, and the avatar he left behind to protect his children became an obsession. The Sutra of Expiation was to dissolve the obsession. Back then, Li Changsheng did not know what the Sutra of Expiation was for. After all, it could not be used to attack or cultivate. It was only now that he understood. The sutra was specially created to counter souls and was specially created for the ghost Tao. The immortal Tao is noble, and the ghost Tao is connected. Heaven and earth are insignificant, and bad luck is everywhere. Lines of words came out of Li Changxing's mouth. A mighty aura rose in the sky and suppressed the red figure. The red figure revealed a rare look of fear and retreated again and again. It was very afraid of the words. Boom! In the void, gigantic ancient characters formed one after another. Each character was bright and radiant, illuminating the entire world. Under the ancient words, the red figure's face revealed a ferocious expression. It seemed to be in extreme pain. The Dharma travels the heavens and illuminates the world. The immeasurable gods are all born from me. Li Changsheng entered a mysterious state. Light flowed around his body as an illusory figure appeared behind him. The entire place was filled with a hazy aura. One ancient character after another condensed in the sky and pressed down on the red shadow like a mountain. Immortal energy surged, its power terrifying. Ah! The red shadow let out a shrill cry, as if it had suffered a great injury. Demonic chi surged from his body, but under the ancient characters, he could only keep retreating. Beams of divine light slashed down like a waterfall. Beams of golden light burst forth and made sounds. The entire sky was filled with an ancient and mysterious aura. Boom! A flawless sutra of salvation appeared in the sky and pressed down together. The righteous energy was vast and mighty. Countless sounds of chanting could be heard in the void as a response to Li Changsheng. They shone brightly. Li Changsheng's surroundings were filled with a resplendent golden light. Even his body had become translucent. The red shadow continued to struggle. It no longer cared about attacking Li Changsheng. In the end, its body began to collapse. It became extremely unstable, as if it would disappear at any moment. Destroy it. A small golden sword whizzed out of Li Changsheng's glabella. The moment the small sword appeared, the ancient characters in the sky turned into streams of light and merged into it. The small sword that was originally 3 inches long instantly grew to a length of 10,000 feet and slashed down. The red shadow let out a miserable cry. Under the golden sword, it was like ice under the sun that was melting continuously. Streams of demonic chi continued to collapse. The immortal Tao is solid. The human Tao is noble. The immortal Tao is hard to stabilize. The ghost Tao is easy to become evil. Li Changsheng continued to chant the sutra. The shadow behind him became clearer and clearer. The golden sword light cut across the entire world and dissolved all the demonic chi. It slashed under the red shadow, and the red shadow let out a creaking sound as if a tree was being set on fire. Li Changsheng summoned the soul-gathering flag, and the shadows of the flag instantly sucked the red shadow in. At this moment, Li Changsheng's body trembled. He felt that the soul-gathering flag seemed to have undergone a huge change, but before he could observe it carefully, a voice sounded. "Ha! Li Changsheng, prepare to die." At that moment, the black-haired fiend celestial blurted out as he slashed his saber at Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng's lips curled into a disdainful smile. Before the golden sword dissipated, it immediately changed directions and slashed at the black-haired fiend celestial with an invincible might. The black-haired fiend celestial's saber beam could not withstand the sword beam at all. Instantly, his body was struck, and he rapidly retreated as tears of blood flowed from his eyes. A bloody hole appeared in the middle of his glabella. Ah! The black-haired fiend celestial roared into the sky. He was infuriated. That avatar had existed since he was born. It was a protective item left behind by his father, but now it had been destroyed by Li Changsheng. Furthermore, the strike from before had severely injured his consciousness. Li Changsheng, there will come a day when I tear you to pieces. After the black-haired fiend celestial said that, he chose to flee into the distance. However, Li Changsheng's lips curled into a sneer. Try to escape? Do you think it's that easy? With that said, Li Changsheng extended his hand and beckoned. The Tian-Du sword appeared in his hand as the sword beam tore through the 9 heavens and 10 lands, slashing at the fleeing black-haired fiend celestial. Whoosh! The black-haired fiend celestial was nearly cleaved into 2 by the sword beam, but he managed to escape at an even faster speed. Li Changsheng knew that he absolutely could not allow him to escape, or he would eventually become a calamity. He spread out his arms and instantly fused with his celestial fiend celestial. Then he chased after the black-haired fiend celestial and conjured a gigantic palm seal that transformed into a forbidden domain, trapping him inside. At the same time, the Tian-Du sword, the soul-amassing banner, and all sorts of weapons attacked the black-haired fiend celestial. All sorts of phenomena appeared behind the black-haired fiend celestial as countless god fiends roared angrily. At that moment, Li Changsheng's cosmic finger and palm was on the brink of collapse. As the only god fiend left in this world, the black-haired fiend celestial inherited the will of his race. He shouldered the special mission of passing down his race's heritage. Now, with him about to die at Li Changsheng's hands, the ancestral will in his veins began to awaken. He's really difficult to deal with. Li Changsheng sensed that the black-haired fiend celestial strength was rising. He absolutely could not allow this to happen. His hands danced as he conjured the god-slaughtering array once again. At the same time, he spewed out a mouthful of blood that fused into the array, suppressing the black-haired fiend celestial who was about to awaken. Boom! One could see the black-haired fiend celestial's body ignite with red blood. This appeared to be a mystic technique. At that moment, the black-haired fiend celestial already knew that he was likely to perish. He did not hesitate to damage his Tao foundation to drag Li Changsheng down with him. The world rumbled as the universe trembled. The void ruptured as the ground beneath his feet constantly sank and was drowned by the seawater. Bam! The mysterious stone seal obtained from the Jinwu ruins smashed down on the black-haired fiend celestial's head, producing the sound of bones shattering. The Tian-Du sword slashed at his body, tearing a gash from his chest to his abdomen. Blood gushed out as his organs were clearly visible. The soul-amassing banner constantly swayed as the black-haired fiend celestial began to feel dizzy. Even the mystic technique that was burning halfway was beginning to stop. Li Changsheng fused with his god fiends as he punched the black-haired fiend celestial's body again and again. Blood splattered as he tried to completely eliminate this threat. Chapter 984. I can't accept this. Li Changsheng, you can't kill me. If you kill me, someone will definitely settle the score with you in the future. The black-haired demon god was truly terrified this time. He could die at Li Changsheng's hands at any moment. Is that so? If I let you go, you won't go against me? Won't you take revenge on me? Of course. I swear on the honor of my race. All right. Li Changsheng nodded and then pressed down with all his weapons. You lied to me. The black-haired demon god roared angrily as his body continued to collapse. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere as he was on the verge of death. Being merciful to one's enemy was being cruel to oneself. If I lose, you will definitely kill me without hesitation. How can I spare you then? Li Changsheng's indifferent voice sounded. The Tian-Du sword shone brightly and smashed the black-haired demon god's head into pieces. Oh! The black-haired demon god roared angrily and transformed back into his original form. His 8 arms flailed and his head was smashed into pieces, but he was still alive. However, Li Changsheng was not moved at all. He took out his weapons and slashed down, determined to kill him completely. Finally, the 8 arms were severed by Li Changsheng, and the saber was shattered by Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng constantly attacked and used all his strength. Finally, Li Changsheng extracted a law from the black-haired demon god's body. It was the body-tempering technique of the ancient demon god and complemented the 9 revolutions of the demon god. Li Changsheng activated the netherworld fire and enveloped the black-haired demon god, constantly refining him. For 3 days and 3 nights, the black-haired demon god's screams resounded throughout the world. Everyone who witnessed the battle felt incomparably terrified. Li Changsheng had really slain a demon god. On the 4th day, the black-haired demon god was completely refined. 9 blobs of blood essence fell into Li Changsheng's hand and were directly devoured by Li Changsheng. A rumbling sound came from Li Changsheng's body as a powerful force rampaged through his body. His entire being seemed to have turned into a sun, shining in all directions. His body was undergoing some sort of transformation. As for the black-haired demon god, he completely vanished from the world. Although Li Changsheng's victory could be said to have been a Pyrrhic victory, his gains were equally great. He could feel his indestructible fiend god body evolving. The 9 balls of essence blood were still stored in his body, and he was slowly refining them. When the day came when the essence blood was completely refined, there would definitely be earth-shattering changes. Although there were only 9 balls of blood essence, the energy they contained was too powerful. The world was silent. The god of the West had died, and it was not an ordinary god, but their god ancestor. Therefore, the people of the West felt that the sky had collapsed, and their spiritual world had sunk into darkness. Some people began to kneel and cry. Even the Pope had tears running down his cheeks. God was their spiritual support. How is that possible? How could God die? I don't believe it. Justice will eventually triumph over evil. God is immortal and indestructible. He will return. Countless people muttered to themselves, "We will avenge God." Someone roared loudly and rushed toward Li Changsheng. In response, Li Changsheng simply waved his sword, and thousands of people turned into blood mist. The slaughter finally made these people sober. Even God had died at the hands of Li Changsheng. They were nothing. In the end, Li Changsheng's palm fell from the sky and completely crushed the Pope. "Mr. Li, is this the end of our journey to the West?" Sword God Yi Nongguang asked. Li Changsheng shook his head. "In the memories of the fiend gods that I have seen, the method of gathering faith in the West was passed down by another person. If this person is not eliminated, he will eventually be a disaster." After Li Changsheng pondered for a while, he felt a powerful psychic power descending on him, trying to corrode his divine soul. This was the power of hatred. Li Changsheng suddenly understood. Since he was praised by everyone and received the power of faith, he would also be attacked by the power of hatred if he was hated by others. Li Changsheng killed the god in the West's hearts. Countless people cursed Li Changsheng, hated him, and viewed him as an enemy. Originally, I didn't know how to force that person out. Since you hate me so much, I don't have any psychological burden. Li Changsheng muttered to himself. On this day, he unfolded the soul amassing flag and activated the blood shadow doppelganger to kill mercilessly. This ancient city was not the only one in the West. In addition to this ancient city, there were 9 other cities facing him from afar. They all had the bloodline of the primordial fiend gods. Li Changsheng first went to the nearest ancient city. He smashed down with the sky piercer and broke the array that enveloped it. The powerful existence tried to resist, but was smashed into a blood mist by Li Changsheng's sky piercer. The remaining blood shadow doppelganger and the black gas formed by the soul amassing flag surged in. Everywhere they passed, all lives were turned into ashes. Their flesh, blood, and divine souls were devoured by the blood shadow doppelganger and the soul amassing spell. After destroying one city, Li Changsheng immediately went to the remaining 8 cities. This time, the people in the other 8 cities were already frightened and chose to escape. However, Li Changsheng had already set up a sealing array in advance, turning this place into a dangerous place. There was no way to go up and no way to go down. Then he killed mercilessly. Millions of people were slaughtered. Corpses were everywhere. Blood flowed like rivers. Mountains and rivers were shattered, and cities were turned into ruins. Finally, when Li Changsheng destroyed 8 cities in a row, the 10 ultimate arrays he set up were broken. A white figure walked out of the void and locked his gloomy eyes on Li Changsheng. The white figure passed down the cultivation method of psyche power. He himself cultivated by relying on the power of faith of countless people in the West. If Li Changsheng killed endlessly, it would be equivalent to breaking his cultivation foundation. He had to come out and stop him. "Your Excellency, you're too much." The white figure had an Eastern face. "You're not a descendant of the divine demons?" Li Changsheng stared at the other party. In addition to the white figure, there were many other figures walking out of the void. They were all the white figure's subordinates. They wore white robes, helmets, and held silver spears. "It doesn't matter whether I'm a descendant of the divine demons or not. You're too stupid to force me out. Do you think you can deal with me just because you killed that divine demon?" A 9-ringed monk's staff appeared in the white figure's hand, and he pointed it at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng's eyes narrowed. The fact that the other party was holding a Buddhist artifact in his hand surprised even him. "Who exactly are you?" Li Changsheng looked at the other party. The other party was dressed in white and had an unusually handsome appearance. In particular, he was bald. The more he looked like a monk. Could it be that the person who passed down the method of gathering faith in the West is a Buddhist? That's too ridiculous. However, on second thought, Buddhism cultivated through the method of faith. It was similar to the cultivation method of the West. It was not impossible that they came from the same source. "I'm the golden cicada." The white figure spoke faintly, but it sounded like a roar in Li Changsheng's mind. This name was not unfamiliar to most people in China. Chapter 985. The Golden Cicada Master, the second disciple of the Gautama Buddha. Li Changsheng furrowed his brows. Does the Gautama Buddha really exist? Li Changsheng stared at the Golden Cicada Master. If there really was a Lane temple in the West, and the Gautama Buddha really existed, it would undoubtedly overturn his ideas that had been formed over many years. Buddha was just a title. Perhaps the high and mighty Gautama Buddha was just the body of a Buddha and the soul of a demon. The corners of the Golden Cicada Master's mouth curled into a mocking smile. Then the rumors about the Western Paradise scripture journey. Do you believe in myths and legends? With that, the Golden Cicada Master raised a 9-ringed monk staff in his hand and swung it at Li Changsheng. The moment the 9-ringed monk's staff struck out, a sacred and pure power drowned out Li Changsheng. The wisps of sacred light turned into an ocean. Although the light seemed to be able to purify people, Li Changsheng knew that it was definitely a terrifying attack that could directly turn people into ashes and completely purify them into the most original spirit chi between heaven and earth. The Golden Cicada Master was far more powerful than the Pope. When the psychic power fell, Li Changsheng felt as if he was being rejected by the entire world. This person was originally a Buddhist, but he went to the West to preach. Whether it was the psychic power of the West or Buddhism, it was absorbed by him. At this moment, a thought suddenly arose in Li Changsheng's mind. Could the so-called journey to the West have been deliberately spread in the world? Every time people thought of him, he would be able to obtain the power of faith. If that was the case, this person was truly terrifying. The vast power of faith pressed down, and all kinds of weapons formed by the power of faith were to completely melt Li Changsheng. Such power of faith could purify the body and mind of believers and eliminate all diseases. But to the enemy, it was poison. To the life in the darkness, light was no different from a sharp blade. The overwhelming power of faith poured down like a waterfall. The 9-ringed monk's staff in the Golden Cicada Master's hand kept making clanging sounds. When the sounds fell into Li Changsheng's ears, Li Changsheng felt frustrated. Behind the Golden Cicada Master, There were countless Western believers kneeling and silently reciting scriptures, and on the other side, there were countless Eastern people worshiping him. Endless power of faith was added to his body. He was definitely one of the most terrifying existences on Earth. Li Changsheng was at a disadvantage as soon as he made a move. It was as if Li Changsheng was fighting against billions of believers. He was the devil, and the power of those ordinary people gathered together was the heavenly Tao. Li Changsheng was defying the heavens. Streams of faith power disintegrated his physical body, making it impossible for Li Changsheng to use any of his terrifying techniques. He lifted his head, his black hair fluttering in the wind. The ancient halberd in his hand continued to hack out, but it was as though he was hacking into water. The golden cicada master's body was wrapped up, and the places it slashed were quickly filled up. I've become a demon, but he represents the great Tao of heaven and earth. Evil can't prevail over good, so I'm destined to die here today. The golden cicada master is so scary. He didn't make a move, but the moment he made a move, he killed me and forced me into a desperate situation. It was as if he had planned all of this. I can't believe there is such a terrifying person in the world. But no matter how many spells I have, I can't use them now. The power of faith is invisible and real. If I want to break this kind of magic, I can't rely on brute force. Even my most powerful, indestructible body can't do anything. Li Changsheng tried to take out the soul-amassing banner, but the black gas on it disappeared instantly. He quickly put it away. Evil can't prevail over good. The soul-amassing banner is evil. But is there no way to break it? If there is yin, there is yang. If there is light, there is darkness. There is no perfect attack. It's just that I didn't think that good, evil, light, and darkness, he muttered to himself. As the saying goes, the devil rises 10. Suddenly, he thought of something. In an instant, black flames rose from his body. The fire of the underworld. With the appearance of the flames, the pressure on Li Changsheng's body disappeared. But under the holy light, the flames were still dissipating and canceling each other out. Since I want the devil to rise 10, I naturally have to release all the devils. Li Changsheng took out the soul-amassing banner and the blood shadow doppelganger. In the blink of an eye, the heavenly halberd in his hand, which had been ordinary and unremarkable, suddenly became boiling hot. Boundless red qi began to emanate from the heavenly halberd. Li Changsheng's eyes suddenly turned blood red. Everyone had a devil in their heart, and this devil was usually hidden. Once released, it could transform into a devil. The golden cicada master said that the body of a Buddha and the soul of a devil reminded him. Li Changsheng looked up to the sky and roared. His black hair danced in the wind. A blood-red lotus mark appeared on his forehead, vivid and lifelike. At the same time, a vision of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood appeared behind him. Countless gods and devils were roaring. Blood flowed like a river. The land was red for thousands of miles. The devil walked the world, and the sun of blood filled the sky. With the appearance of this vision, a terrifying aura spread out from Li Changsheng's body. The holy light was continuously devoured by the vision. Finally, Li Changsheng's aura completely changed. It became ferocious and cruel. He had completely transformed into a devil. His body burned with raging devil fire. The sky piercer in his hand seemed to be connected to him by blood. Finally, he raised the sky piercer and swung it down. The fire of the underworld was like a vast river. As he swung it, a path was instantly opened in the holy light. The sky piercer in his hand trembled continuously. It seemed to be very excited. The holy light couldn't do anything to Li Changsheng. In the distance, the golden cicada master's subordinates all looked frightened. They didn't expect that the omnipotent holy light would be broken. Even the golden cicada master looked surprised. Li Changsheng raised the sky piercer and pointed it at the golden cicada master. His fighting spirit burned, and devil qi surrounded him. I didn't expect you to comprehend the true essence of Buddha and devil under my attack. Li Changsheng, you are qualified to be my opponent. The golden cicada master smiled, and the holy light merged into his body. The aura on his body became even more terrifying. Li Changsheng held the sky piercer in his hand tightly and stared at the golden cicada master. There was no doubt that the other party was very powerful. He was even more powerful than that god and devil. However, Li Changsheng didn't fear him at all. Instead, he was eager to fight him. At this moment, he activated the demonic nature in his body and turned into a devil. Fighting with the holy golden cicada master was the best way to hone himself. Actually, we don't have to be enemies. It's a pity that we're both from the black-yellow great world. We have to kill each other. The golden cicada master shook his head. The nine-ringed monk's staff flew into the sky and bloomed with thousands of rays of Buddha's light. A swastika seal condensed out of thin air and pressed down on Li Changsheng from the sky. At the same time, thousands of Buddhas could be seen chanting sutras. Golden Sanskrit characters were densely packed in the sky, forming a small world. The golden cicada master in Li Changsheng's eyes instantly became tens of thousands of feet tall. Li Changsheng knew that he had entered the world ruled by the other party, the Buddhist kingdom in a palm. Chapter 986. In the eyes of the crowd, Li Changsheng turned into a small person and fell into golden cicada's palm. All of a sudden, a look of horror appeared on their faces. When Li Changsheng fought against that god, he was invincible. How valiant was he? Now, golden cicada had trapped Li Changsheng in his palm the moment he attacked. This kind of strength was simply too terrifying. Li Changsheng was not afraid at all when he fell into the world in his palm. He raised the sky halberd in his hand and struck out. He wanted to pierce through the world and overturn the universe. Rumble! The black halberd pierced into the sky with the power to split the world and pierced into golden cicada's palm. The Buddha kingdom began to collapse. Drops of blood dripped from golden cicada's jade-white fingers. Everyone was dumbfounded. Li Changsheng had clearly fallen into golden cicada master's Buddhist kingdom in the palm, but he was still able to easily injure golden cicada master. This was enough to show that golden cicada master could not deal with Li Changsheng with just the Buddhist kingdom in the palm. Let the Buddha's light purify you. Golden cicada chanted loudly. Rumble! Pure psychic power poured into his palm like a waterfall and surged toward Li Changsheng. Buddhist chants sounded in the world. The golden swastika shone even brighter. Li Changsheng was enveloped by the Buddha's light and was about to be purified. This was a secret technique of Buddhism. It could convert all living beings and affect one's soul. It was mysterious and unfathomable. Only an expert like Golden Cicada could use it. Whoosh! The Jinwu god-slaying sword flew out from Li Changsheng's glabella. It shone with golden light and slashed at the psychic power in front of him. Boom! The golden sword kept growing, cutting a path in the Buddha's light. It flew out of Golden Cicada's palm and stabbed at his glabella. Golden Cicada put his palms together. His body seemed to be plated with a layer of golden light. Circles of Buddha's light appeared behind his head and blocked the golden sword. This was a Buddhist spell. It was said that only the great divine masters of Buddhism could be protected by the Buddha's light. Many Eastern cultivators were shocked. Buddhism had a long history and had many unfathomable methods. Buddha is merciful. If you don't convert, I can only turn you into ashes so that a demon like you won't be able to wreak havoc in the world. As soon as Golden Cicada finished speaking, he sat cross-legged in the void as balls of golden flames surged towards Li Changsheng from the world within his palm. It's the Red Lotus Hellfire. Li Changsheng felt a sense of crisis. The Red Lotus Hellfire contained the power of karma. It could be said to be one of the strangest flames in the world. He did not expect Golden Cicada to be in control of it. As expected, Li Changsheng felt a great sense of danger as soon as the Red Lotus karmic fire rushed up. Fortunately, I know how to control fire. Li Changsheng closed his eyes and allowed the karmic fire of the Red Lotus to envelop his body. The flames were filled with unfathomable power. If an ordinary person or even a powerhouse at the Earth's celestial stage was touched by a wisp of the flames, his body and soul would be destroyed on the spot. However, the flames burned Li Changsheng's body, causing his body to become even more translucent. Golden Cicada looked a little surprised. He muttered something, and streams of dermic powers fell into his palm, forming a sea of fire. I am the Emperor of Fire. All flames in the world listen to my command. Li Changsheng muttered to himself. He waved his hands in the air and formed mysterious runes. Then, the runes merged with a wisp of flame. The wisp of flame separated from the sea of fire and jumped into Li Changsheng's palm. It had already been refined by Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng continued to form runes and infuse them into the flames. The refining speed became faster and faster. Finally, Li Changsheng roared and rushed out of the flames. The flames turned into a red lotus and shot towards the sky with his hand gesture. After breaking the Buddhist kingdom in his palm, he immediately raised his fist and punched Golden Cicada. Although Golden Cicada's dermic powers and cultivation were more terrifying than the God Fiend's, his body was far inferior. He was constantly pushed back by Li Changsheng and spat out blood. Take this. Golden Cicada reached out and grabbed the nine-ringed monk's staff. His aura rose rapidly, and then he raised it to attack Li Changsheng. Buddha has an incarnation of anger, and so do I. At this moment, one could see that Golden Cicada's aura was completely different. It was as if he had been demonized. The Buddha's shell and the demon heart were also Tao that Golden Cicada had comprehended long ago. It could be said that he was now a demonized Golden Cicada. The surrounding people were filled with shock. Golden Cicada's aura was incomparably holy at one moment and demonic at the next. I don't care if you're a Buddha or a demon. Today, I will kill you. Li Changsheng's chi and blood burned. The red lotus, formed by the flames, rushed towards Golden Cicada with his hand gesture. You have completely refined my red lotus karmic fire. When Li Changsheng first broke out of the cocoon, Golden Cicada thought that Li Changsheng had some Dharma treasure that temporarily blocked the red lotus karmic fire. It was only now that he revealed a look of fear. The nine-ringed monk staff in his hand kept dancing, but it kept retreating under the red lotus. Karmic fire burn, Li Changsheng shouted. The red lotus once again turned into endless flames and covered Golden Cicada. Golden Cicada kept dancing with the nine-ringed monk staff in his hand. The Buddha's light behind him turned black. Inside the rings of Buddha's light, one could see the underworld, malicious ghosts, demonic shadows, and rivers of blood. He could switch between Buddha's nature and demonic nature at will. It was obvious that Golden Cicada had a terrifying grasp of his state of mind. No matter what you do, you won't be able to escape death. Li Changsheng roared. The celestial demon avatar appeared behind him and merged with his body. Boom! He punched out and hit Golden Cicada. The Black Buddha's light behind Golden Cicada was directly shattered. His chest exploded and blood splattered. Golden Cicada was sent flying by Li Changsheng's punch. Continue! Li Changsheng swung the sky piercer away. The demonic chi was dense. It directly hit Golden Cicada's nine-ringed monk staff with a loud boom. Under the sound waves, the void within thousands of miles was crushed. The Tian Du sword turned into a sword light that was thousands of feet long. It slashed down like a heavenly river. The sword chi entered the stars, and the river fell from the nine heavens. Li Changsheng used all kinds of weapons. He fought until he went crazy. He used all his trump cards to kill Golden Cicada. His figure moved through the sky like a heavenly rock. The power of chi and blood burned like a sun, illuminating the sky. Golden Cicada kept retreating under Li Changsheng's attacks. Even his nine-ringed monk's staff was bent. His white clothes were dyed red with blood. He was in danger, as if he would be killed by Li Changsheng at any time. Li Changsheng became more and more fierce. He was invincible like a god of war. After he sent Golden Cicada flying with another punch, he suddenly stopped attacking. However, an even more terrifying power spread out from his body. He was preparing for a fatal attack. Chapter 987. Golden Cicada coughed up blood, and his clothes were dyed red. His chest had caved in, and blood kept spurting out of his mouth. He was about to be turned into ashes by Li Changxing's attack at any time. However, at this time, he did not choose to escape. Instead, he took the initiative to attack Li Changxing. "You forced me to do this." Boom! Pure psychic power was emitted from his body. His body suddenly became crystal clear. Every blood vessel and every inch of bone could be seen clearly. At the same time, endless Buddhist sounds were heard, along with the chanting of the West. This is the azure pure body of Buddhism. Many people were surprised. The azure pure body of Buddhism was also known as the Vajra azure body. Only those who had achieved Buddhism could have this kind of physique. It could be said that at this moment, Golden Cicada's physical body was not inferior to Li Changxing's indestructible body of gods and demons. The injuries on his body were visible to the naked eye, and his aura became holy. This was a very terrifying temperament. Golden Cicada could now be called Golden Cicada Buddha. Pure psychic power gathered on his body, and his body emitted light. The world was filled with a holy aura, and it was about to devour Li Changxing. He put his hands together, and a golden swastika on his chest illuminated the sky, suppressing Li Changxing. This was a kind of ultimate kill. Golden Cicada had stimulated his demonic nature, and now he had turned into a Buddha. As the saying went, lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the spot. It was in line with the profound meaning of Buddhism. This was a kind of ultimate kill. Golden Cicada took out the nine-ringed monk's staff. When it descended on Li Changxing's body, it suddenly exploded. Terrifying energy raged, and everything around began to shatter under this energy. Li Changxing did not take it head-on. He chose to retreat. He raised his hand and formed a 3-foot sword domain, which was impenetrable and blocked all the energy outside. The nine-ringed monk's staff was still exploding, and rumbling sounds were heard in the starry sky. Li Changxing's face did not change much. He had known that an existence like Golden Cicada would not die so easily. The void where the nine-ringed monk's staff exploded was torn, and endless astral winds poured in. But in the end, it did not hurt Li Changxing at all. Although the power of detonating one's own magical artifact is terrifying, it's not enough to hurt me. Li Changxing's voice was cold. Really? This is just the appetizer. Golden Cicada's face also turned cold. No matter how good his mental state was, he was unable to maintain his composure after suffering defeat after defeat. On the contrary, Li Changxing's expression was calm, and his heart was like still water. Boom! Endless Buddhist light flashed behind the Golden Cicada's head, radiating light in all directions. The power of faith turned into a heavenly river. At this moment, the Golden Cicada Master actually closed his eyes and silently chanted an incantation. Divine radiance emanated from his body, filled with holiness. Li Changxing gripped his sky piercer and swung it down. Brute force could overcome all techniques, and a single halberd could break all techniques. No matter what kind of technique Golden Cicada used, Li Changxing would use the same technique to break it. Crack! The Buddha's light was split from the middle. Even the Golden Cicada, who had transformed into the azure pure body, was almost sent flying. Take this! A string of Buddhist prayer beads flew out from the Golden Cicada Master's hand. This string of Buddhist prayer beads did not look special. On the contrary, it was full of mottled and traces of time. However, the moment it flew up, it emitted an ancient and mysterious aura, making people feel as if they had returned to the days when ancient gods and demons reigned supreme. The Buddhist beads grew bigger and bigger as they came down on Li Changxing. Li Changxing raised the Fangtian halberd in his hand and slashed out. The Buddhist prayer beads exploded one by one, eventually turning into ashes. However, the moment the Buddhist prayer beads exploded, a golden light descended from the sky. It was the rope that connected the Buddhist prayer beads. This rope was the true divine item. Li Changxing swung the Fangtian halberd in his hand and slashed at the rope. A sonorous sound rang out, and endless energy waves spread out. The rope was only slightly obstructed and continued to descend. This was definitely a divine item that possessed unfathomable power. It made Li Changxing feel a sense of danger. Buddhism was very ancient. It could even be traced back to the primordial era, and Golden Cicada Master's origins were also extremely mysterious. However, although the golden rope was powerful, it could not fall under Li Changxing's attack. Golden Cicada Master's face revealed a hint of surprise. This time, he charged directly at Li Changxing. The rope in his hand was like a golden flood dragon. It instantly straightened and stabbed at Li Changxing. Clearly, Golden Cicada had begun to put his life on the line. The azure cleansing body fought against Li Changxing's indestructible god-fiend body. The Fangtian halberd and the rope tangled together, producing sonorous sounds. The surrounding world was about to explode. Finally, Li Changxing slashed down with his halberd and cut the golden rope in two. Golden Cicada Master was also sent flying. However, after flying for more than 10 meters, he stopped. His palm expanded to the size of a mountain and crushed down on Li Changxing. Buddhist kingdom in a palm again? Looks like you've run out of tricks. Li Changxing sneered. His body turned into a stream of light. With the Fangtian halberd in hand, he charged forward and instantly pierced through Golden Cicada Master's palm. Die! Golden Cicada Master's body shone brightly. This was an extremely terrifying ancient Dharma spell. As soon as this Dharma spell was used, the Buddhist light illuminated the world and was about to assimilate Li Changxing. Boom! The Tian Du sword flew out and was held in Li Changxing's hand. At this moment, Li Changxing had used all his trump cards. The moment the Tian Du sword appeared, the world trembled, stirring up endless wind and rain. It directly broke through the Buddhist light and slashed at Golden Cicada Master's body. Blood splattered. Golden Cicada Master's azure cleansing body was also broken, leaving behind golden blood. Li Changxing followed up with another attack. The Tian Du sword turned into layers of ripples. It wrapped around Golden Cicada Master. The sword light kept slashing at Golden Cicada Master's body. Even the azure cleansing body could not block it. Blood was everywhere. Golden Cicada Master was almost dismembered under the sword light. Whoosh! Li Changxing gathered all his sword intent into the Tian Du sword and slashed down. This sword was simple and unassuming. It did not seem to have any power, but it contained all of Li Changxing's sword Dao comprehension. Returning to simplicity, this sword directly pierced through Golden Cicada Master's heart. Golden Cicada Master kept coughing up blood. However, Golden Cicada Master's vitality was too tenacious. He still did not die. The energy fluctuations between heaven and earth surged. The Buddhist light on Golden Cicada Master's body scattered, constantly healing his wounds. Li Changxing's gaze was cold and fierce as he continued to attack. Sword after sword, he forced Golden Cicada to retreat continuously. The Buddhist light kept shattering under the sword light. In the end, he stepped on Golden Cicada Master's body and descended from the sky, stomping Golden Cicada Master into the ground. He held the Tian Du sword with both hands and stabbed at Golden Cicada Master's head. Endless Buddhist light kept attacking the Tian Du sword, trying to stop it from falling. Golden Cicada Master's eyes were bleeding, and he kept struggling. However, the Tian Du sword still pierced him bit by bit. Finally, as the Tian Du sword completely pierced in, Golden Cicada Master's head was nailed to the ground. All of the Buddhist light dissipated almost at the same time. Golden Cicada Master's body gradually withered and eventually turned into bones. When the dust dispersed, Li Changxing stood on the ground, holding a sword with both hands. Under his feet was Golden Cicada Master, who had turned into bones. At this moment, countless people were shocked when they saw this scene. Chapter 988. Golden Cicada was dead. The black-haired god-fiend with the ancient god-fiend bloodline was also dead. Li Changxing had arrived at the western ancient city and killed the god in the eyes of the Westerners. This was tantamount to the collapse of the sky. Several ancient cities had long been reduced to a mess in the battle between Li Changxing and Golden Cicada. Golden Cicada's subordinates were trembling in fear as they looked at Li Changsheng. None of them stepped forward to take revenge on Li Changsheng because they knew that it was useless. Li Changsheng's strength was not something they could contend against. Take me to where Golden Cicada cultivates. Li Changsheng's gaze locked onto one of Golden Cicada's subordinates as he calmly asked. However, this calm voice caused the subordinate's entire body to tremble. The subordinate was somewhat hesitant. Clearly, he was very resistant to Li Changsheng, the devil in his heart. However, under Li Changsheng's gaze, he finally lowered his head. He did not want to die. All right, I'll take you there now. Thus, under everyone's gazes, Li Changsheng stepped into the void with the other party and arrived at the foot of a mountain. The entire mountain was golden and filled with a Buddha-like aura. Li Changsheng followed the stone steps up the mountain and saw that at the top of the mountain, there was a majestic hall standing there. He could see the words Little Thunder Sound Temple written on the signboard. Li Changsheng was no stranger to these words. Legend had it that the Western Gautama Buddha lived in the Great Thunderclap Temple. Golden Cicada had actually named his place of seclusion the Little Thunderclap Temple. It was clear that he was proud and wanted to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Gautama Buddha. The door to the hall was tightly shut. Li Changsheng approached step by step. He could clearly feel a repulsive force, and this repulsive force came from Golden Cicada, who he had killed. Being stained with Buddha's blood was naturally not tolerated by the Buddhists. However, this repulsive force could not stop Li Changsheng's footsteps. Li Changsheng walked to the door and pushed it open. The moment the door was pushed open, the power of faith gushed out. However, the moment it approached Li Changsheng's body, it automatically slid away, unable to disturb Li Changsheng in the slightest. Inside the hall, there was a golden Buddha statue. However, the face of the Buddha statue was that of Golden Cicada himself. The Golden Cicada master was indeed bold. He did not respect the Buddha, but he respected himself. Li Changsheng looked around and saw murals engraved on the walls. There was a young novice monk who had joined the Buddhist school and obtained the law of faith. One day, he suddenly saw his master drinking wine, and he loudly questioned him. But his master said to him, "Wine and meat pass through the intestines, but Buddha remains in the heart." Thus, the young novice monk believed him. One day, he saw his master leading a woman into the meditation room. The young Buddhist monk leaned against the window and witnessed everything. His master said to him, "Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form." Another year, there was a series of droughts. The monks in the temple were so hungry that they gnawed on tree bark. The young Buddhist monk was also skinny. One day, he realized that there were fewer and fewer senior brothers in the temple. Finally, he realized that his master would call a senior brother to his meditation room every day. Then, that senior brother disappeared. Once, he quietly leaned against the window and looked into the meditation room. His master had actually killed that senior brother and stewed his flesh for food. Thus, while everyone was starving to the point of being skinny, his master's face became more and more oily, and he became fatter and fatter. When his master smiled at him with a benevolent face, the young Buddhist monk saw a ferocious demon. Fortunately, the disaster did not kill the young Buddhist monk. He survived those difficult years and gradually grew up. He practiced Buddhism and became a famous senior monk in the vicinity. It was the first time he could use magic, the first time he cultivated divine powers, the first time he gathered faith, and the first time he could soar into the sky. When his magic power was so profound that even the great demon that everyone feared could not withstand his palm, his master finally grew old. When his master died, he suddenly smashed the Buddha statue in the hall and sat there cross-legged. In the eyes of others, Buddha was Buddha, but in his eyes, Buddha was just the body of Buddha and the soul of a demon. When his act of smashing the Buddha statue spread, he became a traitor of Buddhism. Thus, he changed his appearance and became a senior monk, walking the world. In one of his lives, he became Master Xuanzang of the Tang dynasty. After 9 lives of cultivation, he finally walked his own path. Finally, he went to the West, passed down his teachings, and got to know that demon. From the pre-Qin dynasty until now, this was the life of the golden cicada. Li Changsheng finished looking at the murals on the wall and stood in a daze for a long time. Finally, he let out a long sigh. The golden cicada was proficient in Buddhism, but in fact he did not believe in Buddhism. It was just that he also walked his own path. Li Changsheng saw a futon under the Buddha statue. On the futon was a book. After opening it, he could not help but tremble. It recorded the method to cultivate the azure glass pure body and the Buddhist method to gather mental power. Li Changsheng put the book away and searched around inside. After finding nothing else, he turned around and walked out of the small thunder temple. However, he did not notice that the moment he walked out of the small thunder temple, the Buddha statue of the golden cicada revealed a strange smile. The news of Li Changsheng destroying the Western god began to spread among the various forces watching the battle. In less than an hour, the whole world was shaken. The battle between Li Changsheng and the West was secretly fueled by various major forces. But now, it ended with Li Changsheng's victory. The Eastern cultivation world was in an uproar. Li Changsheng's appearance made the Western cultivation world, which originally had a sense of superiority, completely silent. The major forces behind the scenes also instantly went into hibernation. Li Changsheng came out of the void. He did not destroy the place where the golden cicada was in seclusion. The golden cicada was dead. Leaving the small thunder temple might be a warning to the people of Buddhism. Shengwan Shui, Yinan Guang, and the others were waiting outside. When they saw Li Changsheng, they hurriedly greeted him. Li Changsheng returned to the Great Hua with them. When he returned to the Great Hua, he was immediately welcomed by the entire cultivation world. Li Changsheng was no different from a hero in their eyes. At the same time, Li Changsheng began to arrange the matters of the Qing sect. After destroying the gods and demons in this battle, his strength had increased again. He had to leave Earth to go through the tribulation. Through this battle, he had completely intimidated the forces of the West. He believed that they would be obedient in the future. Yinan Guang and the others also stayed on the Demon Island, ready to embark on the ancient path of the stars with Li Changsheng. Although Earth was the hometown of everyone, it was more like a cage. Everyone could only grow old in the cage, unable to see the wider sky. Mate Songshu planned to stay on Earth. There was still a long way to go before he reached the Earth celestial stage. Moreover, he wanted to walk the path that Li Changsheng had walked and personally set foot on the ancient path of the stars in the future. Mate Songshu chose to stay on Earth. Li Changsheng respected his decision. Moreover, he found that Earth was changing all the time. If he stayed on Earth, it might be an opportunity for Mate Songshu. Chapter 989. After settling the matters on Earth, Li Changsheng was ready to embark on the ancient road of stars. This time, he took Shengwan Shui, Immortal Jin Yang, Immortal Qing Song, and the others, a total of more than a dozen people, and headed overseas. It could be said that this was the largest team to leave Earth in 1,000 years. They first took a ship to the entrance of the ancient road of stars and saw the guardian of the ancient road on the sea. However, after the guardian of the ancient road appeared, he respectfully bowed to Li Changsheng and then made way. Li Changsheng wondered, "I'm taking so many people out this time. Aren't you going to stop me?" The guardian of the ancient road just smiled bitterly. "Now, everyone on Earth knows your name, Li Changsheng. If I dare to stop you, I'm afraid you'll crush me with a finger. I still have some self-awareness." Hearing this, Li Changsheng couldn't help but smile and shake his head. After bidding farewell to the guardian of the ancient road of stars, he directly stepped on the ancient road of stars and headed to the Tiandu star field. After a dizzy spell, when everyone opened their eyes, they found that they had changed to a new world. "This is the Tiandu star field? What rich spirit qi!" Yinan Guang and the others exclaimed. After the spirit qi recovery on Earth, although the spirit qi had become much richer compared to the Tiandu star field, it was simply heaven and earth. There was no comparison at all. I believe that if I cultivate in this place, I will be able to go further soon. Yes, Yinan Guang and the others were excited. For people like them, if they stayed on Earth, they would probably be stuck in their current realm forever. It would be extremely difficult to make a breakthrough. However, it was completely different in the Tiandu starfield. It was as if a door had opened for them. Breaking through to a higher realm was definitely something worth celebrating for a martial artist. Well, let's go to my first stop here. This was the same place Li Changsheng first came to the Tiandu starfield. According to his memory, he went directly to the Cloud Dynasty sect. What a magnificent immortal mountain. When they saw the mountains shrouded in clouds, they all exclaimed. Li Changsheng couldn't help but be speechless. It was as if he had brought a group of country bumpkins into the city, and everything they saw was strange. However, it was not their fault. They had been living on Earth all their lives. It was normal for them to be surprised when they saw the famous mountains and rivers of the Tiandu starfield. Li Changsheng began to walk up the mountain path. However, several disciples appeared and blocked his path. They were all dressed in white, and each of them held a treasure sword in their hands. Each of them was at least in the Xiantian realm. Who are you? How dare you trespass into my Cloud Dynasty sect? My Cloud Dynasty sect is now the #1 sect in the southern region. Hurry up and report your name. Your Cloud Dynasty sect used to be a third-grade sect, but now you dare to call yourself the #1 sect in the southern region. Li Changsheng said with a frown. Nonsense. My Cloud Dynasty sect is now a dignified rank 7 sect, and the Holy Maiden of my Cloud Dynasty sect is the #1 genius of the southern region. If you dare to speak nonsense again, don't blame me for being impolite. The Holy Maiden of the Cloud Dynasty sect? It should be Ling Er. Li Changsheng thought and took a step forward. I'm an old acquaintance of your Holy Maiden. The sect leader of the Cloud Dynasty sect, Sage Zishan, is also very familiar with me. The disciple was stunned for a moment. Then he asked suspiciously, Is what you said true? Of course. Well, I will go and report to the sect leader. If you continue to speak nonsense, then you can wait for your bad luck. Although the disciple did not believe it, he did not dare to make a decision and quickly went up the mountain to report. After a while, a figure could be seen flying over from the sky. Who is this old friend? It was Sage Zishan's voice. When Sage Zishan landed, he was stunned. It was not that he saw Li Changsheng clearly, but the strength of Li Changsheng's group was not lower than the Earth Celestial Realm. Even in the Tiandu star field, so many Earth Celestial experts were very terrifying. Sage Zishan himself was just an Earth Celestial. Sage Zishan, how have you been? Li Changsheng took a step forward. Sage Zishan quickly bowed to Li Changsheng. Greetings, Mr. Li. The disciples of the Cloud Dynasty sect were dumbfounded. Sage Zishan led Li Changsheng's group up the mountain. As they walked up the mountain, the disciples who saw them all bowed and looked curiously at Li Changsheng. Sect leader, I heard there is a guest. A voice like a silver bell came. A figure in white descended from the sky. Her body was full of immortal qi. Wherever she passed, even the air became moist. Yinan Guang and the others were shocked, because in their perception, this girl's aura was even stronger than Sage Zishan. It was Chun Ling with the innate water spirit body. Ling the person you've been thinking about day and night is here. Sage Zishan was usually serious, so it was rare for him to make a joke. Chun Ling body trembled. When Chun Ling saw Li Changsheng, she almost jumped into Li Changsheng's arms. Mister, you're back. Ling, I thought I'd never see you again in this life. Please come in, Sage Zishan said. Everyone sat down in the main hall. Sage Zishan couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng and asked, Mr. Li, these people are? They are people from my homeland. Sage Zishan immediately understood and didn't ask any more questions. Li Changsheng's group stayed at the Cloud Dynasty sect for a few days before leaving, officially heading to the original location of Tian Capital Peak. Li Changsheng's cultivation had already reached a breakthrough point on Earth, so he couldn't wait to face his tribulation. After leaving the Cloud Dynasty sect, Sage Jinyang's group parted ways with Li Changsheng. Each of them was an outstanding person of their generation, coming to the Tian Capital Star Field to train. Shangwan Shui also left, saying she wanted to go back to her sect. Although Shangwan Shui was very disappointed with her sect, she seemed to have thought through a lot of things during this trip to Earth, letting go of her obsession. For Shangwan Shui, this was actually a good thing. So the group that originally had a dozen people left was only Li Changsheng and the Great Ox. Halfway there, the Great Ox also suddenly said goodbye to Li Changsheng. Master, this old yellow also wants to go out and train a bit. All right. Li Changsheng nodded. He knew that everyone had their own path. The Great Ox's first half-life was just a normal yellow ox, but now that he's on the path of cultivation, he's definitely going to make a lot of progress in this trip to the Tian capital starfield. Maybe he'll even be able to find his own path. 3 months later, the ox demon will come see Master again. After saying so, the Great Ox bowed 3 times to Li Changsheng, then turned around and left. And so, Li Changsheng was the only one left. Li Changsheng headed north. When he arrived at Tian Capital Peak, he built a thatched cottage and began to cultivate. On the 3rd day after Li Changsheng arrived, the sky was filled with dark clouds, lightning flashed, and thunder roared. A great tribulation began to brew. Li Changsheng stood in front of the wooden cottage, his black hair fluttering in the wind as he silently looked at the sky, his emotions surging. He's been looking forward to this tribulation for a long time. Chapter 990. Thunderclouds covered the sky and bright lightning lit up the surroundings, tearing the world apart. Li Changsheng looked at the sky quietly. He sealed all his weapons and planned to withstand the thunder tribulation with his physical strength. Heavy rain poured down from the sky like a heavenly river. However, the raindrops automatically slid away when they were 10 meters away from Li Changsheng, forming a vacuum. Li Changsheng began to walk toward a small mountain in front of him, wanting to feel the power of the thunder tribulation at a close distance. From the very beginning, the lightning tribulation this time gave Li Changsheng a great sense of crisis. Only Li Changsheng knew how terrifying this thunder tribulation was. He stood on the small mountain and felt the power of the thunder tribulation cloud above his head more clearly. At this moment, Li Changsheng felt like a small boat in the sea, feeling how small he was compared to the world. Li Changsheng watched quietly and waited. Boom! The thunder tribulation cloud turned into a sea of thunder. In an instant, a bucket-thick thunderbolt struck his body like a white dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. This was a very spectacular scene. Looking from afar, Li Changsheng was facing the thunder tribulation under the lightning. His body was like a god. If a bystander witnessed this moment, he would be horrified. The lightning was so terrifying that someone dared to draw it into his body. This was a disaster. But for Li Changsheng, it was also a good fortune. To be reborn in the thunder tribulation, the Earth Immortal realm might not be too far away from many people in the Tiandu star area, but for Li Changsheng, it was too late to break through. The first thunderbolt was drawn into Li Changsheng's body to refine and temper his body. Then, 9 more thunderbolts struck Li Changsheng's clothes and burned them to ashes. Lightning bolts were tempering his body at a speed visible to the naked eye. Strands of lightning laws were roaming inside his body. Dense bolts of lightning began to descend unceasingly, completely enveloping Li Changsheng. His bronze skin gave off a metallic glow. At the same time, almost all the cultivators in the Tiandu starfield sensed it and looked in the direction of the Tiandu peak. Although no one knew that Li Changsheng was about to undergo a tribulation, the terrifying aura spread out for thousands of miles, causing people to feel their hearts palpitate. It was as if the end of the world was coming. Rumble, wave after wave of lightning flashed, and many strange phenomena appeared in the sky. Xing Tian, the thunder god, intimidated the weak. In the end, he lived in seclusion in the Thunderlock. Emperor Yi shot the suns. 9 enormous planets, which were burning with raging flames, exploded one after another. The ancestral dragon was born, swallowing and spitting out lightning. Its divine might was like a prison, causing all beasts to prostrate before it. As Li Changsheng transcended the tribulation, he looked at the various phenomena flashing across the sky. They were the mighty beings born in the age of mythology. Every move they made had the power to split the heavens and earth. Bolts of lightning struck down. Li Changsheng opened his mouth and directly swallowed the lightning into his stomach. In his dantian, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The green lotus flower swayed gently and absorbed the energy of the lightning. Under the lightning, Li Changsheng's skin and flesh were split open. Even the indestructible body showed signs of collapsing. However, he held on and didn't use any Dharma artifacts to block it. He used the 9 revolutions technique of the celestial fiend and used the lightning to understand the 2 laws of life and death. At the same time, he also used the method of cultivating the azure glass body that he had learned from the golden cicada. At this moment, Li Changsheng's mind was blank. The countless cultivation techniques that he had learned in his 99 lives were integrated in his mind. The indestructible body, which had reached the end, continued to expand under the tempering. Finally, a new cultivation technique appeared in Li Changsheng's mind. This cultivation technique was called the supreme body of the celestial fiend. It was the culmination of all Li Changsheng's cultivation techniques. It would no longer be an imitation of the cultivation techniques of the ancient celestial fiends, but a peerless cultivation technique that could truly be on par with, or even surpass, the ancient celestial fiends. The moment the technique was refined, purple chi spread out for 3,000 li, all of it surging towards Li Changsheng's location. All the cultivators in the Tiandu planet region felt something. Could it be that a peerless cultivation technique has appeared? The purple chi represents the approval of the heavenly law. Countless people mumbled to themselves. Boom! In the sky, lightning flashed and formed a net of lightning that pressed down on Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng's body was charred black. He raised his fist and smashed the falling lightning. He stood there like an invincible god of war. In the sky, the lightning formed a mountain and pressed down. It was a terrifying scene. Hundreds of miles of mountains and rivers had exploded before the lightning fell. The earth sank, and people were in a terrible situation. The terrifying energy fell from the sky. Li Changsheng's fists continued to punch out, but he was still unable to stop the falling mountain. Boom! Li Changsheng gathered all the energy in his body on his fist and turned it into an invincible fist intent. Bang, bang, bang. He punched out again and again, the sound resounding in the universe. Li Changsheng was shocked because he found that he couldn't stop the lightning. It shouldn't have appeared in the earth-level deity tribulation, even the perfected immortal tribulation and sky immortal tribulation. But it was quickly replaced by a raging battle intent. Only by smashing the mountain could one be truly reborn. Transcendence was never an easy thing. Even if it was an ordinary person undergoing the earth immortal tribulation, it would be a life and death tribulation for them. Li Changsheng only amplified the power of the lightning tribulation because of his own strength. He was no different from ordinary people. Li Changsheng's eyes seemed to be burning with fire. 2 divine lights shot out from his eyes and traversed the heaven and earth. He rose from the ground and took the initiative to face the mountain. He was like a moth flying into a flame. He raised his fists and punched out again and again. Even if his fists were shattered, he used his body, his head, and everything that could be used to attack to forcefully shake the mountain. Li Changsheng's mind had already lost its ability to think. It was a complete blank. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to destroy this mountain. His bones were already broken, and his body was broken. It was as if he would be turned into ashes by the lightning at any time. But there was a divine fire burning in his chest. It was the fire of his will. After a long time, cracks started to appear on the solid thunder mountain. 1, 2, 3. There were more and more cracks. When Li Changsheng felt that his body was about to explode, the thunder mountain was one step ahead of him. Countless cracks appeared. Then, a blue light flew out from the broken thunder mountain and landed on Li Changsheng's body. At this moment, Li Changsheng's body was covered by the blue lightning. He felt a buzzing sound in his head, and then he lost consciousness. When he opened his eyes, he felt endless pain in his body. Every movement was heart-wrenching. It was the injury of the lightning tribulation. He almost died in the lightning tribulation. But in the end, he survived the sixth tribulation. Sure enough, he still hadn't broken through to the Earth celestial stage. But Li Changsheng felt that his physical skills were more powerful. He struggled to get up from the ground. He saw that his flesh and blood had been destroyed by the lightning. Only his white bones were left. The light covered his body, and his bones started to grow flesh and blood. After many days, Li Changsheng opened his eyes again. His body had recovered by more than half. I should be as good as new in a few days. Li Changsheng murmured to himself. Just as he stood up, he saw that the clear blue sky a moment ago was instantly filled with dark clouds rolling in like waves. The lightning tribulation was coming again. Chapter 991. 2 consecutive lightning tribulations descended. Are you kidding me? Li Changsheng got up from the ground, and the true essence in his body kept circulating. It was all his fault for accumulating too much when he was on Earth. Now that he had accumulated so much, another lightning tribulation came right after the first one. It was just that his body had not fully recovered, and it was really a little troublesome. Rumble. The lightning tribulation this time was very unusual. It actually gave people a sacred aura, which made Li Changsheng's heart palpitate. There must be a demon when things were abnormal. It seemed that there were many types of lightning tribulations. This lightning tribulation seemed to be filled with a sacred aura, but it was definitely many times more terrifying than before. At this moment, a golden pagoda descended from the sky with a mighty aura. Could this be the legendary divine artifact? While Li Changsheng was in a daze, the golden pagoda had already descended. It was not only condensed by lightning, but it should have existed in the world before. It was imprinted by the heavenly Tao and was now used to deal with him. Li Changsheng didn't have time to think. He raised his fist and punched out with his newly comprehended God-fiend supreme body. Rumble! The earth trembled, and the energy was violent. Although the golden pagoda was condensed by the lightning tribulation, it was like a real thing. Li Changsheng's fist hit it, and there was a sound of metal clashing, and sparks flew in all directions. Li Changsheng was trying his best to resist the golden pagoda, but he saw a huge figure appear in the sky. The cold gaze looked at him, and in an instant, Li Changsheng felt a sense of horror. It should be the owner of the golden pagoda, but he didn't know what kind of existence it was. This lightning tribulation was just a copy of his shape, but it was already so powerful. Lightning flashed, and the golden pagoda brought great pressure. Li Changsheng used all his strength to meet the pagoda, but he was still smashed to the ground and kept vomiting blood. This was definitely a terrifying lightning tribulation. Even a Heaven Immortal Realm expert would hate it. Li Changsheng knew that his future lightning tribulations would be more terrifying than the previous one, but he didn't expect it to be so terrifying. Roar! He roared loudly. He roared unyieldingly. The flames of war burned in his eyes. His heart was filled with fighting spirit. He would not give in. No matter who it is, they can't stop me. No matter who it is that tries to block my path, I will crush them with a single punch. If one punch doesn't work, then 2 punches, 3 punches until they're dead. Li Changsheng made up his mind. He was somewhat deranged. His black hair danced in the wind as his battle intent surged into the heavens. This was his lofty and unyielding character. Whether it was an ancient deity, an ancient divine artifact, or the great Tao of heaven and earth, he could only fight to the death. Under the support of a strong will, a terrifying combat power erupted. Li Changsheng's body was almost broken, but he did not stop, and he had no regrets. He fused all the Taoist techniques he had learned into one and evolved them into a Taoist fist that could destroy the heavens and earth. He condensed his lifetime's comprehension into fist intent, transforming it into an unyielding fist that rushed into the heavens. He punched out again and again, producing clanging sounds. He swung his fists one after another, pressing forward with an indomitable will, carrying with him absolute and fearless. Rumble! The golden pagoda was sent flying again, and the melodious sound resounded for millions of miles. Every living being in the entire Tiandu Star region could hear it clearly. One of Li Changxing's arms was also blown off, but even so, he still did not compromise at all. He continued to climb into the sky, determined to compete with the Golden Pagoda. Rumble! The thunderclouds in the sky formed a huge tornado that roared and covered the sky as if it was going to tear the world apart and shatter the universe. Good timing. Li Changsheng spat out blood, and tears of blood flowed from his eyes. His white bones were exposed, and his blood stained the earth red. He rushed into the tornado fearlessly and wanted to fight to the death with the thunder tribulation. This was a battle of life and death. Li Changsheng had already put aside his life. The moment he entered the tornado, he felt as if his entire body was being cut into pieces. His flesh and blood were flying everywhere, and even his bones were shattered. It was a crisis that was enough to kill him. Li Changsheng felt that he was going to die at any time. Am I really going to die? Even as strong as Li Changsheng was, a sense of sadness rose in his heart at this moment. He had lived for tens of thousands of years and thought that he had already seen through life and death. But at this moment, he was unwilling to die like this. He was still reluctant to leave this world. He let out a roar, and the power of qi and blood rose from his broken body. He gathered all his willpower, all his unwillingness, and all his anger to punch out. Whoosh! Before this punch could even touch Li Changsheng, his body began to crumble again. This was because this punch carried too much weight. When he punched out, the tornado was finally torn apart. He rushed out of the tornado and found that his whole body was broken. Only half of it was left, but he was still alive. A green light emitted from his dantian and enveloped his body. It was the green lotus seedling. There were 3 leaves on the green lotus seedling, which seemed to correspond to the unseen world. Doubt gave birth to 1, 1 gave birth to 2, 2 gave birth to 3, and 3 gave birth to all things. At this moment, Li Changsheng felt very comfortable. Then his flesh and blood regenerated, his bones grew again, and his broken arms stretched out and became complete again. The thunder tribulation was not over yet. The blurry figure in the sky was still staring coldly at Li Changsheng. Come on! Li Changsheng clenched his fist and roared to the sky. The other party seemed to be angered by him and snorted coldly. A big hand made of thunder fell suddenly. Li Changsheng suddenly felt a sense of horror. The body that had just been restored by the green lotus seedling showed signs of collapse again. Boom! Only the hand made of thunder and lightning was left in the sky. Every pattern on the hand was clearly visible, and it seemed to be an ancient pattern. Li Changsheng took a deep breath and abandoned all thoughts. He clenched his fist and punched out. At the moment of the punch, his heart fell into a state of emptiness. Regardless of whether I live or die, I have fought and I have no regrets. At this moment, Li Changsheng was very calm, like the calm after the waves of the sea. However, the punch contained incredible power, and the power of laws appeared. As the fist and the palm met, a terrifying force swept out and hit Li Changsheng's body. Li Changsheng was instantly sent flying, and the body that had just condensed instantly burst into a blood mist, leaving only his head behind. The thunder tribulation was finally over. At this moment, Li Changsheng hurriedly activated the supreme, god-fiend body to attract the body that had been shattered and reconstruct his flesh and blood. The gloomy clouds in the sky just now had disappeared and turned into an empty sky as if nothing had happened. Only Li Changxing's body was wrapped in a ball of blood. After an unknown period of time, a complete human figure appeared. Li Changxing heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally transcended the 7th thunder tribulation. However, he had yet to break through to the earth immortal realm. Chapter 992. He was sure that with his current strength, he could even kill a celestial immortal with 1 punch. When Li Changsheng was going through the tribulation, Yinan Guang and the others had also made a name for themselves in the Tiandu Star Zone. The Great Ox, in particular, made a shocking decision after traveling to several cities in the Tiandu Star Zone. He wanted to challenge all the experts in the Tiandu Star Zone. In 3 months, he started from a 5th-grade sect and had now defeated 18 experts in a row. Even a 7th-grade sect leader was defeated by him. He was in the limelight for a while. After Li Changsheng went through the tribulation, he continued to sit down at the original position of the Tiandu Peak. The wooden house that he built last time was blown to pieces by the tribulation. At Li Changsheng's level, he didn't need to shelter himself from the wind and rain. So, he simply treated a big rock as his home. He sat cross-legged on the big rock every day to cultivate, constantly consolidating his level and digesting the enlightenment from the tribulation. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Because the tribulation was too powerful, it killed all life within a few hundred miles. There were no plants or people. No one came to disturb Li Changsheng when he was cultivating here, but a year later, new vegetation began to grow, and gradually, there were animals and people. Although the tribulation represented destruction, it also represented new life. The vitality of the tribulation was integrated into the earth, but it could also breed life. On this day, a group of men and women riding dragon blood horses appeared in the Tiandu Peak. I heard that a year ago, there was a flash of lightning here. It was earth-shattering. I think it's very likely that a rare treasure was born. A woman walked at the front. Her cheeks were red and her eyes were filled with excitement. Yuma, is there any basis for your speculation? This time, we snuck out without telling our elders. Putting aside the fact that we'll be punished by our elders when we return, what if some peerless great demon is undergoing a tribulation here? If we recklessly barge in here, we might even lose our lives here. A man next to her questioned, "What are you talking about? Can I lie to you? Besides, why don't you use your brain and think about it?" That day, the lightning flashes spread across 1,000,000 miles. What kind of great Yao could cause such a huge commotion? A true immortal, a heaven immortal, or a gold immortal? Have you heard of the existence of experts above the celestial stage in the Tiandu starfield? If it wasn't a heavenly immortal stage expert undergoing the tribulation, even if it was a true immortal, an ordinary great demon would have been blasted into smithereens. Hearing Yuma's words, everyone present felt that it made sense. Thus, he stopped talking and sped up. This should be the ruins of the Sky Capital Peak. It is said that the Sky Capital star system is named after the Sky Capital Peak, but a few years ago, the Sky Capital Peak was uprooted and completely disappeared. It is said that the Sky Capital Peak turned into a treasured sword and was taken away by a deity. Nonsense. Sky Capital Peak is 3,000 meters tall. How could it be a treasure sword? The rumors can't be trusted. Amidst the discussions of the crowd, suddenly a man exclaimed, "Look, what's that? What's that? It looks like a person. What's going on?" Several young men and women looked ahead in surprise. At this time, Li Changsheng slowly opened his eyes. He had already sensed that someone had appeared around him. He didn't want to pay attention to them, but he didn't expect that these people would walk straight to him. "I'm a cultivator who is cultivating here. You don't have to be afraid." Li Changsheng smiled slightly. A young man muttered, "Could he be the great demon who is undergoing the tribulation? What nonsense are you talking about? This senior is obviously a human." Yuma glared at her companion and said respectfully, "Senior, is there a treasure here?" "There are no treasures here." Li Changsheng shook his head. "Senior, you're not being honest. You're deliberately saying this because you're looking for treasures. You want to send us away, right? We don't believe you. Why don't we take a rest here?" A man suggested. Thus, Yuma and the others set up a tent nearby and rested. Li Changsheng looked like a savage because he had been sitting there. No wonder these people called him senior. While they were resting, Li Changsheng went to a nearby river to wash up. He tied up his hair and shaved off the beard on his face. Then he took out a clean set of clothes from his heaven-earth bag and changed into them. When he came back, Yuma and the others were surprised. "Are you the senior just now?" Yuma asked stutteringly. "Yes. You look like you're about the same age as us, but you're deliberately taking advantage of us." Yuma was a little unhappy. At this time, Li Changsheng saw that they were making a fire and roasting meat. It should be a few rabbits. Seeing Li Changsheng's gaze, Yuma curled her lips. Why? Do you want to eat? Here's one. As she spoke, she pulled off a leg and handed it to Li Changsheng. With Li Changsheng's current realm, he actually didn't need to eat. However, after a year of eating the wind and drinking the dew, it made him rather nostalgic for food. He took it and began to eat it in big bites. Reincarnation of a hungry ghost. Yuma couldn't help but roll her eyes. They were all born in noble families, so they had to be gentlemen when it came to eating. However, although they said that when they saw Li Changsheng finish eating, they handed Li Changsheng a rabbit leg. They rested here for 4 hours before leaving to search for treasures again. As for Li Changsheng, he continued to sit on the rock and cultivate. The two sides didn't disturb each other. After more than a month, Li Changsheng felt that his realm had been completely consolidated, so he got up and left. According to his agreement with the Great Ox should have come to find him a long time ago. However, the Great Ox probably saw the scene of the Thunder Tribulation and knew that he was going through the tribulation, so he didn't dare to disturb him. However, after he finished the tribulation and didn't see the Great Ox for so long, Li Changsheng felt that something was wrong. He left the place where he cultivated and walked all the way south. After walking for 100 miles, he felt the energy fluctuations of a battle ahead. Li Changsheng didn't want to be nosy, but he casually scanned with his divine sense and found a few familiar auras. It was the group of young men and women who had come here to explore a while ago. Their enemy was a demon sect disciple in a black robe. Little girl, you'd better be obedient. Your natural water spirit body is suitable for me to use as a cauldron. The figure shrouded in a black robe said gloomily. Yuma was the same as Chun Ling, an innate water spirit body. Li Changsheng found out that day, but he didn't care. He didn't expect to meet someone from the demon sect. I'll kill you. Yuma rushed toward the demon sect guardian with a sword in her hand, but as soon as she rushed over, she was sent flying. Chapter 993. You're just in the innate realm. How dare you try to struggle? It's fine if you obey me, but if you don't, all of your companions will die today. As he spoke, one of Yuma's companions was sucked over and grabbed by the neck. Obviously, his strength was much higher than Yuma's. Previously, they were just playing a game of cat and mouse. Now that they were fighting, Yuma and the others were no match for him. Little girl, I'll start counting now. I'll count to 3. If you don't nod, I'll kill him. If you still don't nod, I'll continue to kill until all of your companions are dead. As he spoke, the demon sect guardian began to count. 3, 2. As soon as he said 1, his palm was already slamming down on the man. No, Yuma exclaimed as she watched her companions die at the hands of the guardian. At this moment, the black-robed man suddenly realized that his arm couldn't slam down. A figure appeared beside him and grabbed his wrist. Cultivators take things one step at a time. It's best not to use such an outrageous method. Even the ancestors of the demon sect would despise you if they saw your behavior. Li Changsheng grabbed the black-robed guardian's arm and said coldly. The black-robed guardian snorted coldly and said, "Where's the reckless brat? How dare you ruin my plan? Go to hell." As he spoke, he clapped his hands and hit Li Changsheng. The palm was filled with black gas. It was obvious that this guy's cultivation was very high. However, in Li Changsheng's eyes, he didn't cultivate on his own. He must have captured many young girls to be his cauldrons to reach his current level. Suddenly, Li Changsheng's eyes turned cold and he kicked out directly. The black-robed man flew up on the spot. Before he could fall, he exploded into a cloud of black gas in the sky. The remaining demon sect disciples were all terrified when they saw how terrifying Li Changsheng's attack was. They all retreated one by one. Li Changsheng knew that the black-robed man wasn't a good person. His subordinates weren't good people either. He didn't show any mercy. With a wave of his sleeve, a ray of light flew out, and the surrounding demon sect disciples exploded one after another. Yuma and her companions were stunned. It was extremely difficult for them to deal with the people from the demon sect. However, in the hands of Li Changsheng, they were simply slaughtered like chickens and dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. Thank you for saving my life. Yuma hurriedly thanked Li Changsheng. Only then did he see Li Changsheng's face clearly. It's you. You're amazing. Which sect disciple is he from? With your strength, you can probably become a holy son in a rank 7 sect. Yuma and the others came from small sect, so they admired those 6th and 7th rank sects very much. Sort of. Li Changsheng was not willing to explain any further. He was about to leave after saving the patient. Wait a minute, Yuma said. Benefactor, you've saved us. May I know your name? Just call me Mr. Li, Li Changsheng said. All right. Yuma nodded. Li Changsheng suddenly remembered and said, Have you heard of a person called the Great Ox? After parting ways with Li Changsheng, the Great Ox traveled around. Originally, Li Changsheng was just testing the waters, but he saw Yuma's eyes widen. Of course. Is the Great Ox very famous? Li Changsheng wondered. Of course he's famous. The Great Ox appeared out of nowhere and challenged the sect leaders of various sections. His power is unparalleled. There are very few people in the Tiandu Star Zone who don't know his name now. Then do you know where the Great Ox is now? Li Changsheng asked again. Why, Mr. Li, are you familiar with him? He's a friend of mine, Li Changsheng said. Then I advise Mr. Li, you must not be impulsive. Hearing Yuma's words, Li Changsheng had a bad premonition in his heart. Did something happen to the Great Ox? The Great Ox went to challenge the Huaikong Valley, one of the 7 forbidden lands of the Tiandu Star Zone, and was imprisoned there for a year. Huaikong Valley? What sect is that? Li Changsheng knew the Tiandu Star Zone well, but he had never heard of this sect. The Huaikong Valley only appeared in the past year. It is said that they are a hidden sect. Their strength is very terrifying, and they are not inferior to the 9th rank sect. In the past, there were 3 holy lands. After the Huaikong Valley knew that they appeared, they could not compete with the 3 holy lands. Now that the 3 holy lands have all been destroyed, the Huaikong Valley appeared. That demon ox great sage challenged all the way to the earth immortal realm and became even stronger. Coincidentally, the Huaikong Valley appeared and he went to challenge them. In the end, he was trapped by the people of the Huaikong Valley. I heard that he was imprisoned in the abyss and his shoulder blades were pierced with iron chains. I see. Li Changsheng's eyes were full of murderous intent. The Great Ox was his servant and half his apprentice. He was very loyal to him. Now that he heard that the Great Ox was captured, his eyes were full of killing intent. Feeling the cold aura of Li Changsheng, Yuma couldn't help but shiver. But she still advised him, although he is your friend and your strength is very terrifying, I advise you not to rush to save him. The Huaikong Valley is too powerful. Your friend broke through to the earth immortal realm, but he is still no match for them. If you go, I'm afraid you will be killed. Yes, Mr. Li, don't be impulsive. The others also kindly reminded him. Where's the Huaikong Valley? Li Changsheng asked. The Huaikong Valley is one of the 7 most dangerous places in the Tiandu Star area. It is located in the far west. It is very difficult to find it. But when I was young, my father took me to the Huaikong Valley to become an apprentice because of my special constitution. Unfortunately, the Huaikong Valley was in seclusion at that time and couldn't get in touch with the people of the Huaikong Valley. So I didn't join the Huaikong Valley. Hearing Yuma's words, Li Changsheng nodded. Like Chun Ling, Yuma had the innate water spirit body. It could be said that she was very talented. It was not difficult for her to join a 9th rank sect. Since you know the location of the Huaikong Valley, I wonder if you can take me there? Don't worry, I can guarantee your safety. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Yuma's companions immediately winked at Yuma crazily. Although Li Changsheng saved their lives, in their opinion, if they went to save the Great Ox, they would definitely offend the Huaikong Valley. By then, they might not be able to come back alive. Although Li Changsheng's strength was terrifying, in their hearts, They didn't think that Li Changsheng had the strength to challenge the Huaikong Valley. Unexpectedly, Yuma nodded and said, "Okay, I believe you." She didn't know where this belief came from, but she instinctively felt that Li Changsheng wouldn't lie to her. "Okay." Li Changsheng nodded. "Then let's go now. Do we need to ride the dragon blood horse?" Yuma asked. She only had one dragon blood horse, and Li Changsheng didn't have a mount at all. "No need." Li Changsheng waved his hand, and a huge spiritual artifact ship appeared on the ground. Chapter 994. Let's take this. Yuma nodded. "Yuma, I'll go with you." At this time, a boy stood up. Li Changsheng found that when Yuma was talking, his eyes always fell on Yuma secretly. Obviously, he had special feelings for Yuma. Hearing the young man's words, the others looked at each other. "Why don't we go too? We don't have to go to the Huaikong Valley. We can stop when we're a dozen miles away from the Huaikong Valley," a young man said. He was worried about Yuma and wanted Yuma to cut ties with Li Changsheng in time to avoid being hated by the Huaikong Valley. Although these people were more scheming, they were really considerate of Yuma and could be considered her true friends. Yuma looked at Li Changsheng and asked for Li Changsheng's opinion. "Okay, anyway, my boat is very big." Thus, a group of people boarded the ship in a grandiose manner. Under Li Changsheng's control, the spiritual boat rose into the air and flew quickly to the west. Looking up from the ground, it looked like a plane. In fact, the ultimate path of technology and theology was the same. Humans would find that the two goals were the same. The Huaikong Valley was one of the 7 forbidden lands in the Tiandu Star Zone. It was also one of the rare 9th-rank sects in the Tiandu Star Zone. However, its comprehensive strength was not as strong as the 3 Holy Lands. It was said that thousands of years ago, the Huaikong Valley had a battle with the 3 Holy Lands and lost, so they completely lived in seclusion. It was not until the 3 Holy Lands were destroyed by Li Changsheng that the Huaikong Valley officially reappeared. The Huaikong Valley was located in the far west of the Tiandu Star Zone. In an abyss in the Huaikong Valley, there was fog lingering. At the bottom of the abyss, an old man with disheveled hair was chained up with hundreds of iron chains. His shoulder blades were pierced, and dried blood could be seen with the naked eye. Every time the old man moved, blood would flow out of the scabbed wound again. It was very miserable. He was the Great Ox. Li Changsheng went into seclusion to make breakthroughs while he traveled the world. Later on, one day, he suddenly comprehended his own Tao and wanted to establish himself as invincible. Thus, he began to challenge the experts of various sections. In fact, this path was indeed a broad path for the Great Ox. Every time he defeated an opponent, his strength would increase by a large margin. He had reached the Earth's celestial stage in less than a year since he had arrived in the Tiandu Star area. He didn't even take the top powerhouses in the Tiandu Star area seriously. It just so happened that the Huaikong Valley appeared at this time. In order to continue tempering his martial Tao, the demon Ox Great Sage chose to head west and challenge the experts of the Huaikong Valley. However, he did not expect to be defeated by the first elder of Huaikong Valley. Originally, the Great Ox had said that he was only going to stop at a certain point. After he failed the challenge, he planned to turn around and leave. However, he did not expect that the Huaikong Valley had already set up an inescapable net and captured him. They directly pierced through his shoulder blade and locked him in the abyss, forcing him to hand over the cultivation method. That was because the Huaikong Valley had heard that the Great Ox had reached the Earth's celestial stage in a short period of time. The speed was ridiculously fast, and they thought it was the effect of the cultivation method that he had practiced. The Great Ox's cultivation method was passed on to him by Li Changsheng, and Li Changsheng was the Great Ox's greatest benefactor in his life, the person who had changed his destiny. Therefore, the Great Ox refused to teach him the cultivation method. Even if the Huaikong Valley used all means to harm him, he would not give in. "The Great Ox, why do you have to suffer like this? As long as you teach us the cultivation method, we can release you and let you be the guardian of our Buddhist sect. Otherwise, you will die here sooner or later." A bald old man in a kasaya persuaded the great ox. It turned out that the Huaycong Valley was a Buddhist orthodoxy. However, these people did not have the compassion of the Buddhist sect. Instead, they were insidious, cunning, and full of tricks. It was also because of the compassion of these people that they had deceived the great ox. After the great ox lost the competition with the grand elder of the Huaycong Valley, he was caught off guard. As a result, he fell into the enemy's encirclement and ended up in this situation. The so-called guardian of your Buddhist sect, I'm afraid my mind will be controlled by your Buddhist sect's magic, and I will neither live nor die. Do you think I, the great ox, am a fool? Moreover, I have already told you not to waste your efforts. You want to get the cultivation method from me? There is no way. You devil, you still dare to be so stubborn at this time. The monk struck the ground with the Buddhist staff in his hand. The iron chain that locked the great ox's body tightened at the same time, and blood gushed out from his shoulder blades. The great ox screamed in pain. Now that his shoulder blades were locked and his cultivation was sealed, he was completely an ordinary person. How could he endure this kind of pain? The great ox, I will give you another month to consider. If you are still unwilling to hand over the cultivation method, then blame me for being ruthless, the monk said in a cold voice. His expression was ferocious and his eyes were gloomy. He was simply a devil. The golden cicada said that once a merciful person did something ruthless, it would make people shudder. Aren't you afraid that my master will trouble you by torturing me like this? Are you referring to Li Changsheng? That Li Changsheng is indeed terrifying. He is almost invincible in the Tiandu star field. Even if 3 sacred lands fell at his hands. But do you think we didn't investigate? A year ago, lightning flashed at the ruins of the Tiandu Peak as if it was the end of the world. The entire Tiandu star field sensed it. Many people guessed that it was a punishment from the heavens, and some said that a rare treasure had appeared. But the Huaycong Valley has long detected that it was Li Changsheng undergoing the tribulation. Even a heavenly immortal expert would be smashed into pieces by the lightning tribulation. Although Li Changsheng is strong, he is definitely not stronger than a heavenly immortal expert. So he should have fallen in the lightning tribulation long ago. Li Changsheng no longer exists in this world. Otherwise, he would have come looking for you after such a long time. Hearing the monk's words, the great ox's eyes flowed with tears of blood. Master, did you really die in the lightning tribulation? This proud man who had never bowed his head under the torture of the Huaycong Valley showed his weak side for the first time. At this time, Li Changsheng was steering the Dharma artifact ship all the way to the west. Although the Dharma artifact ship was called a ship, it could also fly in the air in addition to sailing on the sea. Tell me about the Huaycong Valley. Li Changsheng looked at Yuma, who was next to him. Yuma nodded and said, the Huaycong Valley is an orthodoxy passed down from ancient times. It is one of the branches of Buddhism. The most powerful person in the Huaycong Valley is not their valley master, but their great elder. It is said that the Huaycong Valley is proficient in a demon-subduing formation, which was set up by 108 eminent monks. It is very powerful. Back then, the Huaycong Valley wanted to use this formation to dominate the world. In the end, they were defeated by the 3 holy lands and could only choose to live in seclusion. The doctrine of the Huaycong Valley is not recognized by Buddhism. The Buddha they worship is also a kind of evil Buddha. Then why did you join the Huaycong Valley? Li Changsheng was puzzled. Because the Huaycong Valley has a cultivation method that is most suitable for the water spirit body. 1,000 years ago, a genius appeared in the Huaycong Valley and dominated the world. That woman was called Evil Moon Guanyin, and she cultivated this cultivation method. It turned out that Yuma was actually aiming for this cultivation method. Li Changsheng nodded. Although the Tiandu Star Zone was divided into righteous and demonic sects, they were actually the names of 2 camps. There was no distinction between righteous and demonic cultivation methods in real sections. People only pursued strength. Chapter 995. Under Yuma's guidance, they finally arrived at the far west. When they entered the far west, the further west they went, the more strange they felt. It was as if there was a lot of faith power gathering in this place. Li Changsheng knew that Buddhists cultivated the power of faith. However, as far as he knew, the Huaikong Valley was regarded as an evil Buddha by the Orthodox Buddhists in the Tiandu Star Zone and was not recognized. As a result, they had very few followers. How could they have such pure power of faith? Where did this power of faith come from? It seemed that the Huaikong Valley was indeed extraordinary. Soon, they were less than 30 miles away from the Huaikong Valley. Li Changsheng stopped the ship and said to Yuma and the others, "Wait here quietly. After I destroy the Huaikong Valley, I will come back to thank you for your help in leading the way." After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he took a step forward. His body turned into a green light and flew directly in the direction of the Huaikong Valley. Yuma and the others were a little dumbfounded. This Mr. Li is really arrogant. He actually said that he would destroy the Huaikong Valley. We have already told him about the horror of the Huaikong Valley along the way. Why is he not careful at all? Even Yuma could not help but shake her head. She felt that Li Changsheng was a little arrogant. At this moment, Li Changsheng quickly arrived in front of the Huaikong Valley. He could see layers of formations in front of him that completely covered the Huaikong Valley. However, with Li Changsheng's vision, he could still see that this place was extraordinary. Li Changsheng stood in the sky. His eyes were like torches. They turned into two golden lights that directly pierced through the maze in front of him and took in the scene of the Huaikong Valley. He immediately saw the great ox in the abyss, who was tied up by countless iron chains and dying. A cold, murderous aura spread out from his body. At the same time, a sense of joy rose in his heart. The great ox is still alive. It's good that he's alive. Bald donkeys of the Huaikong Valley, come out and die. Li Changsheng took a deep breath. Then, his thunderous voice echoed between the mountains and spread in all directions. On the ship in the distance, Yuma and the others suddenly opened their mouths wide. Isn't this Mr. Li too valiant? I thought he was going to sneak into Huaikong Valley to rescue the great ox, but I didn't expect him to challenge me directly. I think he's a little stupid. If he screams like that, the entire Huaikong Valley will be alarmed. When all the experts come out, how can he survive? This Mr. Li thinks that he is strong, so he dares to look down on Huaikong Valley. This is undoubtedly very stupid. At this moment, Li Changsheng's voice was heard in front of the mountain gate of the Huaikong Valley. However, after a long while, there was no response from inside. Li Changsheng suddenly remembered that this place was shrouded in an array formation. It was likely that even sound was isolated. In the next second, he took out the Tian-Du sword and slashed forward. Rumble! The sword light was resplendent. Just as it landed, a huge golden swastika appeared in the fog ahead. It emitted a golden light and attempted to block the Tian-Du sword's sharpness. This was the mountain-protecting array of the Huaikong Valley. It was so powerful that it could even block an attack from a perfected immortal. However, under the blade of the Tian-Du sword, the swastika began to tremble continuously. Then, with a cracking sound, it shattered like glass and turned into specks of golden light, disappearing into the forest. The array formation was instantly broken. At the same time, the remaining power of the Tian-Du sword's sword light did not diminish. It directly slashed down, and the mountains and rivers within 100 miles began to tremble. Enemy attack. Who dares to cause trouble in my Huaikong Valley? Angry voices could be heard. Figures that were a flock of birds that had been awakened in the early morning flew out from inside. The leader was a monk in a black asaya. However, the monk did not look merciful at all. His eyes were filled with ferocity. At this moment, he was staring at Li Changsheng sinisterly. Who are you? How dare you damage the array formation of my Huaikong Valley? Do you think that my Huaikong Valley is easy to bully? Because the power of Li Changsheng's sword just now was so great that the other party's face was filled with fear. Are you the Valley Master of Huaikong Valley? No. The other party shook his head. Then are you the Grand Elder of Huaikong Valley? No. The other party continued to shake his head. Then can you make the decision for the Huaikong Valley? I can't make the decision. The other party still shook his head. Then you don't deserve to talk to me. In the next second, Li Changsheng slashed with the sword light in his hand. Whoosh! Before the black-robed monk could react, he was cut in half from head to toe. Blood splattered in the sky. The remaining disciples of the Huaikong Valley were horrified. The black-robed monk had a high status in the Huaikong Valley. He was the 8th elder. They didn't expect him to be killed by Li Changsheng. They were all furious and were about to attack Li Changsheng. However, in the next second, the sword light slashed down and the heads of hundreds of monks flew up and fell from the sky. How dare you? How dare you behave atrociously in my Huaikong Valley? An old monk holding a demon-subduing staff inside had a golden light around his body. He crashed towards Li Changsheng like a shooting star. The other party's strength had definitely reached the perfected immortal realm. On the Dharma artifact ship in the distance, Yuma and the others widened their eyes. Although they were 15 miles away, Li Changsheng was in the air and they could vaguely see the scene. That should be the Valley Master of the Huaikong Valley. I didn't expect Li Changsheng to force the Valley Master of the Huaikong Valley out as soon as he appeared. I heard that the Valley Master of the Huaikong Valley is very powerful. I wonder if he can beat him. Yuma and the others' hearts were in their throats. They were all worried for Li Changsheng. Although the Huaikong Valley hadn't appeared for nearly 1,000 years, their legends have been circulating in the Tiandu Star Zone. After all, they used to be a force that could compete with the 3 sacred grounds. Who are you? How dare you behave atrociously in my Huaikong Valley? The old monk stopped 30 feet away from Li Changsheng and stared at Li Changsheng with a gloomy face. You imprison my servant. Who do you think I am? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the old monk was shocked. Are you Li Changsheng? As soon as he said that, a sword light slashed down. The monk had just raised the demon-subduing staff in his hand to block it, but in the next second, the demon-subduing staff that was emitting a golden light was cut in half. The remaining power of the sword light didn't diminish and directly cut his body in half. One move. Li Changsheng only used one move to kill the Valley Master of the Huaikong Valley. On the Dharma artifact ship, Yuma and the others were completely dumbfounded. They knew that Li Changsheng was very powerful, but at first, they thought that he was very powerful to be on par with the Valley Master of the Huaikong Valley. However, they never expected that the powerful Valley Master of the Huaikong Valley couldn't withstand one move from Li Changsheng. Not only Yuma and the others, but even the many disciples who rushed out of the Huaikong Valley were completely dumbfounded. They looked at Li Changsheng with fear in their eyes. Chapter 996. All the disciples of Huaikong Valley were dumbfounded. They didn't expect their Valley Master to be killed by Li Changsheng in one move. At that moment, an old monk in a black monk robe suddenly opened his eyes in the abyss. His eyes were flickering with red light. Li Changsheng is here. At the same time, the great ox, who was locked in the abyss, seemed to have sensed something and was overjoyed. Ha ha! My master is here. Your Huaikong Valley can wait to be destroyed. Is that so? That might not be the case. The old monk sneered. Li Changsheng is indeed powerful, but my Huaikong Valley is not to be trifled with. As soon as he finished speaking, the old monk turned into a black gas and rushed out of Huaikong Valley, charging towards Li Changsheng. I like to see what's so great about Li Changsheng, who can destroy the 3 great sacred grounds. As soon as he finished speaking, the black gas had already arrived in front of Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng raised his fist and threw a punch. Rumble. With a loud boom, the black gas was directly dispersed by him. Then, the old monk fell from the sky, spitting blood as he stared at Li Changsheng in shock. He was the great elder of Huaikong Valley. He had been in seclusion for many years and had finally reached the peak of the true immortal realm. However, he never expected to be seriously injured by Li Changsheng in one move. In the sky, 108 rays of light descended from the sky and surrounded Li Changsheng. It was the most powerful demon-subduing formation of Huaikong Valley, which was set up by 108 Earth Immortals. It was the biggest trump card of Huaikong Valley. Even a true immortal was no match for it. Li Changsheng, I think the matter with the great ox is a misunderstanding. As long as you are willing to resolve the grudge with Huaikong Valley, we are willing to release the great ox immediately and compensate you. The great elder of Huaikong Valley looked at Li Changsheng and said, he was very afraid of Li Changsheng's strength. If I hadn't appeared here, perhaps the great ox would have been tortured to death by you all. Now, you actually want to resolve your grudge with me? Dream on. Today, not only will I kill you, the first elder, I will also flatten the Huaikong Valley. People like you should not exist in this world. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the first elder's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Li Changsheng, although you are powerful, do you really think that you are invincible? You talk a lot of crap. Li Changsheng couldn't be bothered to speak. He took out the Tian-Du sword and slashed out. An extreme sense of danger arose in the great elder's heart. He hurriedly turned into a black light and dodged to the side. Even so, he was still swept by the sword light, and half of his body turned into a bloody mist. Attack together. The 108 senior monks chanted at the same time, forming rays of black light in the sky. Normally, the divine abilities condensed from Buddhist spells were golden in color, but now it had actually turned black. This meant that the Huaikong Valley had committed too many sins and had lost the holiness of Buddha nature. The rays of black chi formed a swastika in the sky and pressed down on Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng only sneered. The Tian-Du sword in his hand suddenly became 100 feet long, and the sword light rushed into the sky. The swastika was instantly smashed into pieces. The 108 senior monks vomited blood at the same time. How is this possible? The first elder was completely shocked. As far as he knew, when Li Changsheng fought with the demon ancestor, although the demon ancestor was not Li Changsheng's match, he could barely fight with Li Changsheng. The 108 senior monks in the Huaikong Valley, in addition to his own strength, were definitely stronger than the demon ancestor, but now they were all seriously injured by Li Changsheng in one move. However, he didn't know that Li Changsheng's trip to Earth, coupled with the 2 lightning tribulations this time, had already undergone a tremendous change in his strength. Go to hell! Li Changsheng's sword wave slashed out and crisscrossed. The 108 Earth celestial stage monks exploded one after another under the sword light and turned into a bloody mist. They were all dead. How is this possible? The first elder was scared out of his wits. He didn't dare to fight against Li Changsheng anymore. He turned into a ray of black light and fled into the distance. Want to escape? It's not that easy. Li Changsheng took out the Tian-Du sword and slashed at the first elder. However, the first elder was about to die under the Tian-Du sword. Suddenly, the ground trembled. Then, a black palm descended from the sky and blocked the sword light of the Tian-Du sword. At the same time, the palm was scattered by the sword light, but the first elder managed to escape with his life. Then, the ground cracked open and an extremely ferocious monster crawled out from the depths of the abyss. It was a giant that was 100 feet tall. Black blood dripped from his palm, which was injured by Li Changsheng's Tian-Du sword. After he appeared, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the great ox who was chained up by the iron chains. Exerting strength, the iron chains on the great ox broke apart. Then, he wanted to swallow the great ox in his mouth. No matter how much the great ox struggled, he couldn't break free from the giant's palm. Seeing the great ox was sent to the giant's mouth, Li Changsheng slashed down with his Tian-Du sword and slashed at the giant's head. The giant had already seen the power of the Tian-Du sword. Therefore, he didn't dare to let the Tian-Du sword hit him. He grabbed the great ox to block the sword light. Damn it! Li Changsheng's sword light stopped in the air and flew towards the giant. The giant was 100 feet tall. In front of him, Li Changsheng's body was like a little bird in front of a mountain. Let him go. Fight with me. Li Changsheng flew to the same height as the monster and said coldly. The monster let out a weird cry and threw the great ox to the side. Then, he raised his palm and slapped at Li Changsheng. The giant's body was too big. His arm was like a mountain as it came crashing down. Li Changsheng raised his Tian-Du sword and clashed with the giant's arm. Once again, the giant's arm was slashed open and fresh blood dripped down. However, the wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. This giant's physical strength is so strong. Could he be a descendant of the ancient god or devil? When Li Changsheng thought of this, he kept his Tian-Du sword and turned into his god or devil avatar. Then he took out his Fang Tian halberd, and his body kept expanding. In the end, he was as big as the giant. You are also a descendant of the god or devil. The giant stared at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng did not answer. He clenched his Fang Tian halberd and slashed at the giant. The giant relied on his physical strength. After Li Changsheng passed 2 lightning tribulations, he wanted to find a place to fight to his heart's content. Li Changsheng, who had turned into his god or devil avatar, waved his Fang Tian halberd and caused the sky to fall and the earth to crack. At first, the god or devil avatar had a slight advantage because of his bigger body. However, after being slashed twice by Li Changsheng, his body kept retreating. When the great elder saw the giant, he was relieved that he had survived. However, when he saw Li Changsheng's physical strength that was even more terrifying than the god or devil avatar, he was completely trembling. What kind of terrifying existence did I provoke? In the distance, Yuma and the others widened their eyes. Who was he? He could fight with the legendary devil avatar worshipped by the Huaikong Valley. Chapter 997. The fiend god was thoroughly enraged as he waved his arms and charged towards Li Changsheng. This fiend god was indeed powerful. If he had encountered such a fiend god on Earth, Li Changsheng would have had to go all out, and the outcome would have been hard to predict. However, after passing 2 lightning tribulations, Li Changsheng's strength had undergone an earth-shattering change. Facing the incoming fiend god, he smashed out with his halberd. Boom! It actually sent that mountain-like body flying. The heavenly halberd perfectly demonstrated what it meant to defeat 10 with 1 strength. It might not be as sharp as the Tian-Du sword, but its weight was absolutely terrifying. Against an enemy like the descendant of an ancient fiend god, it had an innate advantage. Fortunately, it had fallen into the hands of Li Changsheng. Otherwise, very few people would be able to unleash its power. The heavenly halberd was swung away by Li Changsheng, and the surrounding mountains and rivers exploded continuously in the battle between the two. Under Li Changsheng's attacks, that fiend god was forced to retreat continuously. He was completely suppressed. That fiend god let out an angry roar. Ever since he was born, he had never suffered such humiliation. However, even though his roar shook the heavens and earth, he was still unable to break free from Li Changsheng's attacks. Pung, 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 pung. The heavenly halberd smashed down continuously. Li Changsheng unleashed the strength of his body to the maximum. The fiend god smashed into the mountains and rivers behind him, causing them to explode one after another. In the end, the heavenly halberd still pierced into his shoulder, causing fresh blood to flow out. Just a moment ago, the fiend god was still extremely fierce, but now he was completely suppressed by Li Changsheng. At this moment, he was struggling bitterly under Li Changsheng's heavenly halberd. The heavenly halberd was infused with all of Li Changsheng's strength, causing the fiend god's body to emit cracking sounds as he knelt down bit by bit. Ayo, ayo! The fiend god's eyes were bloodshot as he roared furiously, forming a powerful sound wave in the sky. However, it still couldn't change anything. Finally, under the might of Li Changsheng's ancient halberd, he knelt down. To him, this was an incomparably humiliating scene. The first elder of Huaikong Valley, Yuma, and the others in the distance were completely stunned. It's too terrifying. No wonder he said that he wanted to destroy Huaikong Valley. This god fiend is said to have unparalleled physical strength, but he was actually completely suppressed by him. His surname is Li. Could he be that Mr. Li? Many people around looked at the man who spoke in surprise. The one who destroyed the 3 holy lands. Many people gasped in shock. If it's him, then it makes sense. Originally, I had thought that the person who wiped out the 3 holy lands with a wave of his hand was an incomparably ferocious character. However, after interacting with him for this period of time, I found that he is very kind. He is the type of person who will not attack unless provoked. Yuma and the others couldn't accept it. It was because Li Changsheng was too amiable and considerate of them. Such a person was completely different from the ferocious person who destroyed the 3 holy lands in the legends. The God Fiend kept struggling under Li Changsheng's ancient halberd, and Li Changsheng used all his strength to suppress him. Now that his physical strength was much stronger than the descendants of the God Fiend, it was enough to prove that the newly created God Fiend's supreme body in his heart was no longer an imitation of the ancient God Fiend's technique, but a technique that could surpass the ancient God Fiends. Die. Li Changsheng continued to increase his strength. The ancient halberd continued to sink. Roar. The God Fiend roared, and a blood-red light flashed in his body. He actually stood up from the ground bit by bit. The ancient halberd that had been cut into his body was actually squeezed out bit by bit. The moment the ancient halberd was completely squeezed out, the God Fiend turned around and fled without hesitation. Li Changsheng was so terrifying that even the God Fiend had to flee for his life. He actually chased the God Fiend away. Under countless shocked gazes, Li Changsheng swung the ancient halberd and threw it directly at the God Fiend's back. Hearing the sound behind him, the God Fiend hurriedly turned around to block and punched the ancient halberd. Although he blocked the ancient halberd, he was also shaken and fell from the sky to the ground. "Don't force me," the God Fiend said in a gloomy voice. An ancient God Fiend like this naturally had a last resort to save his life, but Li Changsheng wasn't afraid. He raised his hand again, and the ancient halberd returned to his hand. Without hesitation, he slammed it down at the God Fiend. However, in the next second, the God Fiend transformed into 3 heads. One of the heads was directly smashed open by the ancient halberd. At the same time, Li Changsheng created a world in his palm, enveloping the God Fiend to prevent him from escaping. Then he did something that stunned the God Fiend. He put away the ancient halberd and actually raised his fist to charge at the God Fiend. He wanted to compete with pure physical strength. Although the God Fiend was almost beaten to a pulp by Li Changsheng, as a descendant of an ancient God Fiend, he was proud. When he saw that Li Changsheng wanted to compete with him in terms of physical strength, he immediately roared and charged at Li Changsheng. Hence, the 2 of them collided heavily. Rumble. The ground caved in, and the universe was upside down. The 2 of them punched and kicked, every punch hitting flesh. It was like 2 strong men in the mortal world competing in strength. However, because the 2 of them were too big and their strength too strong, every punch and kick of theirs seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth apart. In the end, even the small world that Li Changsheng had set up was shattered. After fighting for 3 days and 3 nights, Li Changsheng finally shattered the God Fiend's defense with a punch and pierced through the God Fiend's heart. The moment it pierced through the heart, the God Fiend's body suddenly exploded. The God Fiend knew that he was no match for Li Changsheng, so he chose to self-destruct at the last moment, wanting to drag Li Changsheng down with him. Li Changsheng didn't expect the God Fiend to have such a move. Caught off guard, he was sent flying by the explosion. Half of his body was blown apart, and he lay on the ground, returning to his normal appearance. He was covered in wounds. However, Li Changsheng smiled smugly. He had killed a God Fiend with his physical strength. Nothing made him prouder than that. In the distance, the Huaikong Valley's Grand Elder, who was hiding in a corner and preparing to escape immediately once Li Changsheng defeated the God Fiend, hesitated for a while when he saw Li Changsheng's dying state. In the end, he swaggered towards Li Changsheng. "What do you want?" Li Changsheng narrowed his eyes. "Of course, I'm going to kill you while you're sick." The Grand Elder sneered. "Are you so confident that you can kill me? You've seen my strength. Just 1% of my strength is enough to destroy you." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the Grand Elder shook his head. "Li Changsheng, the more you say that, the more it means that you're guilty. You probably can't even use 1% of your strength to kill a god fiend, so you'd better be on your way. I didn't expect to benefit me in the end. As long as I kill you, no one in the Tiandu star field will be my match in the future. At this point, the Grand Elder couldn't help laughing out loud. Li Changsheng shook his head and muttered, "As expected, the evils we bring on ourselves are the hardest to bear." Chapter 998. Li Changxing's eyes were filled with mockery as he looked at the Great Elder, who was walking towards him step by step. It was a pity that the Great Elder didn't know that his life was hanging by a thread. He walked to Li Changxing's side with a sinister smile and looked down at Li Changxing condescendingly. You didn't expect it, did you? You'd actually die in my hands in the end." As he spoke, he slowly raised his palm. "Do you really think you've got me?" Li Changsheng asked again. "Li Changsheng, don't try to stall for time. It's useless. Go to hell." As he spoke, he slammed his palm down. However, when his palm hit Li Changxing's forehead, the smile on his face instantly froze. This was because he felt that his vigorous palm energy had disappeared without a trace, as if it was mud or the sea. How could this be? He didn't have much time to think. In the next moment, Li Changsheng directly reached out and grabbed the Great Elder by the throat, lifting him up on the spot. The Great Elder continued to struggle under Li Changxing's palm, his cheeks flushing red. But to his horror, he discovered that his entire body's true essence had been imprisoned. How could this be? How could this be? However, Li Changsheng didn't intend to explain to him. He tightened his grip, and with a bang, the Great Elder's throat was directly crushed by Li Changsheng before he casually threw him on the ground. However, the Great Elder wasn't dead yet. He was still struggling to get up. A blood-shadowed doppelganger instantly pounced over, and the Great Elder's flesh and blood turned into ashes. At this point, Huaikong Valley was completely destroyed. Li Changsheng took a deep breath. His injuries were indeed quite serious. Just a slight attack on the Great Elder had affected his wounds and caused him to feel a piercing pain. He slowed down and then walked towards the Great Ox. At this moment, the Great Ox was covered in blood and was also severely injured. However, when he saw Li Changsheng coming over, he immediately got up and knelt on the ground before Li Changsheng. "Greetings, Master." The Great Ox's body kept flickering, showing signs of returning to its original form. Li Changsheng raised his finger and lightly tapped the Great Ox's forehead. Then, the Great Ox's body finally stabilized. "Master, your body is so heavily injured. How can you waste your Jinyuan on me? It's nothing. I'm just helping you stabilize your body." After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he sat down cross-legged and began to work hard. 30 miles away, Yuma and the others saw that the battle had stopped. They mustered up their courage to get off the ship and walk over. When they saw the mess in the field, the shattered mountains and rivers, and the cracked earth, they all widened their eyes. Although they had seen the scene from afar, it wasn't as shocking as experiencing it themselves. When he saw Li Changsheng and the Great Ox still sitting there, he hurried over. "Mr. Li, are you all right?" Yuma asked with concern. "I'm fine. I need a rest here for a few days. Although the Huaikong Valley has been destroyed, there might be many artifacts left. You can go in and take a look." Li Changsheng remembered that when he first met Yuma and the others, they went to Tiandu Peak to search for treasures. However, the strange phenomenon was caused by Li Changxing's tribulation, so they were destined to return empty-handed. However, the Huaikong Valley was different. The Huaikong Valley was originally a sect that was not inferior to the 3 holy lands of Tiandu Star Zone. Although many magic tools were destroyed in the battle, there must be a lot of things left in such a big sect. Of course, Li Changsheng didn't care about those things, so he simply let Yuma and the others go in and explore. "But Mr. Li, your injuries," Yuma said worriedly. "It's fine. I don't need you to take care of my injuries. Hurry up and go in." Yuma heard this and nodded. The group of people walked towards the Huaikong Valley. At this time, the Great Ox's strength had recovered a lot. The injuries on his body were not visible from the outside. "Master, The great ox demon has embarrassed you and caused you to be seriously injured. Hearing the great ox's words, Li Changsheng chuckled. You're my man. It's natural for me to save you. Moreover, although I'm seriously injured, I've also gained a lot. As he spoke, he raised his hand. A few drops of bright red blood were spinning on his palm. This was the blood that Li Changsheng extracted from the great demon's self-destruction. It was very beneficial for him to improve his strength. Li Changsheng extracted a total of 5 blood. He took 4 for himself and gave 1 to the great ox under his command. The great ox hurriedly took it and swallowed it. In the next moment, the sound of qi and blood flowing was heard from the great ox's body. It sounded like a river crashing. For Li Changsheng, even if he refined all 4 blood essences, it would only bring him closer to the next heavenly tribulation. However, for the great ox, 1 blood essence was enough to make him undergo earth-shattering changes and complete an incredible transformation. The great ox's body glowed red. Even his eyes had turned red. His entire body seemed to have turned into a big furnace, emitting a blazing aura. As he roared, the sound waves shook the heavens and earth. It even stirred up a fierce wind. After a long time, when the aura on his body gradually calmed down, his entire person became different. He had stepped into the peak of the Earth's celestial stage and was only 1 step away from the true celestial stage. Thank you, Master. The great ox bowed to Li Changsheng again. Li Changsheng nodded with satisfaction. The great ox's progress made him feel very gratified. It was only an ordinary beast body. To be able to reach this stage, it didn't just rely on luck. The great ox also had the tenacity in its heart. After the great ox had completely consolidated its realm, Li Changsheng said, "Protect me." After saying that, he swallowed the 4 blood essences and started to refine them. This time, his battle with the divine demon had caused him serious injuries. However, as the blood essences entered his body, his injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. His aura was also recovering bit by bit. In addition to the blood essences that he had refined from the divine demon he had killed on Earth, they were now integrated into Li Changsheng's body. Li Changsheng felt a terrifying power swimming in his body. It seemed like he wasn't far from the next heavenly tribulation. If I can kill another divine demon, I'm afraid I'll immediately go through another heavenly tribulation and truly step into the Earth's celestial stage. Li Changsheng had lived countless lives, but he had never stepped into the Earth's celestial stage. The Earth's celestial stage had almost become his inner demon. However, he also knew that as long as he stepped into the Earth's celestial stage, his strength would definitely reach a terrifying level. Even he didn't know how strong he would be by then. However, presumably, the heaven's celestial stage would be like an ant in front of him. Chapter 999. Li Changsheng completely refined the few drops of blood essence in his body, and he felt that his body had undergone a great transformation. He believed that it wouldn't be long before he could face the thunder tribulation again. At this time, a few rays of light flew over from afar. It was Yuma and the others who had gone to explore the ruins of Huaikong Valley. Everyone was in high spirits. Obviously, they had obtained a lot of good treasures. Yuma and the others walked in front of Li Changsheng and took out a treasure and placed it in front of Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, we were able to get the treasures inside this time because of you, so we decided to give you the best treasure we got to express our gratitude. Hearing Yuma's words, Li Changsheng looked at the slightly immature faces and couldn't help but feel a little warm in his heart. Compared to the demons in Huaikong Valley, these people were pure and innocent, which was simply a clear stream. However, Li Changsheng shook his head. You can take these treasures. They're useless to me. Indeed, with Li Changsheng's current realm, ordinary treasures were nothing in his eyes. Mr. Li, please accept them. This is a little token of our appreciation. Yes, Mr. Li, if it weren't for you, how could we have gotten so many treasures? Moreover, you were the one who destroyed Huaikong Valley. Logically speaking, these treasures should be yours, but you were generous enough to give them to us. We are already very grateful to have received these treasures. This is also a little token of our appreciation." Hearing their words, Li Changsheng finally nodded and put away the treasures. Seeing Li Changsheng put away the treasures, Yuma and the others smiled happily. Li Changsheng bid farewell to Yuma and the others and headed north with the great ox. Last time, he was schemed against by the guardian of the ancient road. If it weren't for Li Changsheng's extraordinary strength, he would have been lost in the vast starry sky. He planned to teach the guardian of the ancient road a lesson first. After all, he couldn't suffer a loss for nothing. Along with the great ox, they traveled north for a few days. When Li Changsheng reached the entrance of the ancient starry sky road, he saw that the demon palace had disappeared into thin air. Even the ancient starry sky road had disappeared. How could this be happening? Don't tell me that the guardian emissary knows that I'm back and decided to take the devil palace with me? But why would the ancient starry sky path disappear? Li Changsheng was puzzled. He circled around the original location of the ancient starry sky road and began to explore, trying to find clues. But in the end, he was disappointed. There was nothing. What should we do? Li Changsheng's original plan was to find Shangwan Shui and the others, so he stepped onto the ancient path of the stars. Who would have thought that the starry sky ancient road would disappear? "Master, look at what this is." Suddenly, the great ox pointed at a broken black stone on the ground and said, there was nothing special about this black stone. It looked just like an ordinary stone. So Li Changsheng didn't notice it just now. But after hearing the great ox's words, he also noticed that this stone was unusual. There seemed to be some kind of ancient text engraved on it. This is an array stone. Li Changsheng recognized the origin of this stone. There was a kind of stone that innately contained all kinds of natural forces. Then, ancient characters were engraved on it, and this power could be used to the maximum to arrange an array. And under Li Changsheng's perception, this array stone clearly contained a trace of space law. The so-called ancient starry sky road was actually a kind of teleportation array, and this stone was very likely to be the legendary array stone that built the ancient starry sky road. But because this array stone had been used for too long, it had almost exhausted its energy, so it was abandoned. It seemed that the guardian emissary had taken away the teleportation array on the ancient starry sky road, but he didn't know where he was hiding. Li Changsheng was also a little worried for a moment. The Tindu star field was so big, it was easier said than done to find a person, especially if this person was deliberately hiding. Li Changsheng and the great ox returned from the extreme north. Along the way, they went in every city they encountered to inquire. After he left the earth, did anything unusual happen in the northernmost land? Finally, one day, he met a black-robed Taoist priest in the city. The Taoist priest told him, a month ago, he went to the extreme north to look for a kind of plant. Then, he saw a black palace rise from the ground in the extreme north and disappear into the distance. I don't know where the palace disappeared in the end. Li Changsheng asked a lot of people, but they all said that they didn't know about the extreme north. Now that he finally met someone, his face was full of joy. He is heading south. Did he go to the southern region? Li Changsheng came to the Tindu star field twice and stayed in the southern region. It seems that I'm really fated with the southern region. Should we go see the matriarch first and then go to the southern region together? The great ox asked. The matriarch he was talking about was naturally Shangwan Shui. No need. The two of us will go explore the southern region first. Let her stay by herself for a while. Li Changsheng knew that once he stepped on the ancient star road, he might never look back. Shangwan Shui grew up in this place. Letting her stay in her hometown for a while was also good. Then let's go. Li Changsheng thanked the black-robed man who told him the news, and the two of them drove the artifact ship straight to the southern region. From the extreme north to the southern region, it was a journey of millions of miles. However, since the guardian of the ancient road wanted to hide from Li Changsheng, it was normal for him to hide from the extreme north to the southern region. Now that the Cloud Dynasty sect was second to none in the southern region, if the guardian of the ancient road ran to the southern region, they might know something. Li Changsheng and the Great Ox directly went to the Cloud Dynasty sect to see Purple Shan Daoist. They asked Purple Shan Daoist if anything strange had happened in the southern region recently. However, Purple Shan Daoist was confused, saying that the southern region had been calm recently and nothing strange had happened. Chun Xian could only say goodbye and went with the Great Ox to almost the entire southern region. Unfortunately, they didn't find any trace of the Demon Palace. What do we do? Did the person who told us that he saw the Demon Palace fly south was lying to us? The Great Ox said casually. However, Li Changsheng suddenly had a flash of inspiration in his mind. When he saw the black-robed man, he felt something strange in his heart, but he couldn't tell what it was. After hearing the Great Ox's words, Li Changsheng suddenly remembered that the aura of the black-robed man was somewhat similar to the guardian of the ancient road who lived in the Demon Palace. It's over. We've been fooled. That black-robed man is the guardian of the ancient road. Li Changsheng exclaimed. Chapter 1000. Let's go back to the far north. Li Changsheng said to the Great Ox. He didn't expect to be fooled. This guy is really hateful. Not only did he move the teleportation array away, he even dared to come out and tease me, making me travel millions of miles. The last time he returned to Earth, he was tricked by the guardian of the ancient road into entering the boundless starry sky. If it weren't for his superior strength and the teleportation array he set up, he would probably still be exploring the starry sky, homeless. And now, the other party had tricked him again. New grudges and old grudges can be settled together. Li Changsheng snorted coldly. The people of the Demon Gate are really cunning and strange. They really aren't good people. Li Changsheng and the Great Ox went all the way north and came to the city where they met the black-robed man last time. Li Changsheng released his divine sense, but unfortunately, he couldn't find any trace of the black-robed man. The black-robed man had superior strength and must have a way to hide his aura. If he didn't take the initiative to show himself, Li Changsheng would have a very difficult time finding him. No matter where you run to, I will definitely find you. Li Changsheng thought to himself. He came to the place where he met the black-robed man last time and carefully sensed, trying to find the other party's trace. He formed a seal with his hands and muttered something. An image of the surrounding area appeared in the air. This magic was called the final radiance of the setting sun, which was equivalent to a surveillance video on Earth. It could be used to see what happened here before. Unfortunately, when Li Changsheng and the black-robed man parted, the black-robed man seemed to have disappeared from the street. There was no record of him at all. It seems that he used magic to cover up all the traces he left here. How cunning! Li Changsheng was disappointed again. But if the other party had moved the altar away, all he needed to do was hide. Why did he show himself and let him go to the southern domain? Was it just to tease him? Li Changsheng thought. If I had detected him when he came out to lead the way, wouldn't all my previous efforts have been wasted? But why would he still take such a risk to see me? This means that he's definitely not just toying with me. Instead, he wants to send me away for something. Li Changsheng's heart seemed to have grasped something, and he suddenly thought it through. Thus, he immediately took the Great Ox with him and asked around to see if anything big had happened in the vicinity or the entire far north while he was in the southern region. This time, it was indeed much smoother. Almost everyone told Li Changsheng that an earthquake had occurred in the extreme north not long ago. Everyone could feel the tremors in the city. Perhaps the earthquake had something to do with the guardian of the ancient road. However, an earthquake had occurred in the entire extreme north. Li Changsheng thought hard about where the source of the earthquake was. In the end, he decided to ask the cities one by one. This was because the tremors were definitely the strongest at the place closest to the source of the earthquake. In fact, it was just as he had guessed. The further north he went, the stronger the tremors were. In the end, Chun Xian could almost see the collapsed houses and city walls. However, there was no one living in the north. Li Changsheng and the Great Ox could only continue to search according to the traces of the earthquake. A few days later, the two came in front of a cliff. Below the cliff was an abyss with black gas lingering. The tremors seemed to be coming from here. Li Changsheng spread out his divine sense to explore the situation below the abyss. However, he was surprised to find that the fog below could isolate his divine sense, making it impossible for Li Changsheng's divine sense to penetrate. This place is really strange. If I'm not wrong, the guardian of the ancient road is likely to be inside. With that, Li Changsheng leaped off the cliff. His courage stemmed from his skill. Although he knew that it was strange and unpredictable inside and might be dangerous, Li Changsheng was not afraid. The great ox followed closely behind. The two dived all the way down, but found that the abyss was ridiculously deep. It took them half an hour to reach the bottom. It was very different from what Li Changsheng had imagined. The ground was very dry, and there were no poisonous creatures. The light below was a little dim, but they could barely see things. It was like dusk. It was a huge canyon, surrounded by unknown plants. Li Changsheng and the great ox walked all the way inside. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. There was no sound, but Li Changsheng felt that there was a pair of eyes watching him. This feeling was faintly discernible. Every time Li Changsheng tried to search, the feeling of being watched disappeared. Finally, after Li Changsheng and the great ox walked for several miles, a dark palace appeared in front of them. Black Qi lingered above the palace, and Devil Qi soared into the sky. It was the palace where the guardian of the ancient road resided. Li Changsheng hadn't expected to find it so easily. It seemed to be going a little too smoothly. Li Changsheng walked to the entrance of the palace, but there was no movement. Just as Li Changsheng was about to push the door open, a faint voice rang out in his ear. "Friend, you'd better not open the door. Otherwise, you'll regret it." Li Changsheng suddenly turned around and saw a white-robed man appear behind him. The man was quietly looking at him. The instant Li Changsheng saw him, he realized where the feeling of being watched had come from. It was this man. In other words, this man had been following him from the moment he entered the abyss. The fact that Li Changsheng hadn't been able to sense him despite being strong enough to do so caused him to be on guard. "As far as I know, there are no more than 3 people who can sense that I'm being followed," the white-robed man said. "You kept looking back, which means you sense my presence. That's unusual. However, I still want to give you some advice. Turn around and leave. Don't touch my palace. If you do, you'll be forcing me to attack you." "Your palace?" Yang Qi asked. "I know the owner of this palace. It's not you, is it?" Li Changsheng was 100% certain that this was the palace where the guardian of the ancient road resided. "You know the original owner of this palace?" the man asked, a look of surprise on his face. "Unfortunately, the original owner of this palace is no longer in this world. I'm the new owner." "You're the new guardian of the ancient road?" Li Changsheng asked, suddenly realizing something. The guardian of the ancient road had been ordered to guard this place. It was similar to how ministers in ancient times had been appointed. When their term was up, they would leave, and there would be a successor. Sure enough, the white-robed man nodded. "Not bad," Yang Qi said. "It seems you know quite a bit. Are you a friend or foe of my predecessor?" Chapter 1001. What if I say I'm his enemy? Truth be told, whether you are his friend or foe has nothing to do with me. However, he is still a senior brother for my sect. After my term here is up, I will return to the Demon Heavenstar region and meet him. If I can help him deal with a few of his enemies, we can improve our relationship in the future. The white-robed man looked at Li Changsheng. "So, you want to make a move on me?" Li Changsheng shook his head. "Didn't your predecessor tell you that he moved the ancient road of stars to the depths of the abyss to avoid me?" "Avoid you?" "It seems my predecessor was a failure. The Heaven Capital Starfield is just a novice village, and you're a rookie. He can't even deal with you. You're a disgrace to us guardians of the ancient road." As he spoke, the white-robed man walked toward Li Changsheng. His strength had definitely reached the true immortal realm. His every move seemed to be one with heaven and earth. However, Chun Xian didn't move. The great ox took a step forward and blocked his path. If you want to touch my master, you'll have to get through me first. The great ox's strength had reached the peak of the earth immortal realm, half-step true immortal realm. The white-robed man in front of him just happened to be his opponent. The white-robed man frowned. Although your strength is not bad, you're not worthy of being my opponent. As he spoke, he waved his sleeve, and a transparent sword chi whistled toward the great ox. The white-robed man didn't take the great ox seriously, and this move was very casual. However, when the transparent sword chi struck the demonic ox great sage, the demonic ox great sage stood there motionlessly. The sword chi disappeared into thin air without a trace. Instantly, the white-clothed man revealed a look of surprise. It seems I've underestimated you. As he spoke, he raised his hand and it transformed into a sparkling sword, which gently pierced toward the great ox. Although the white-robed man was from the devil's sect, his every move was full of immortal chi. The treasured sword didn't seem to have any power, but the great ox's entire body was tense and his mind was highly focused. He felt that the moment the white-robed man stabbed out with his treasure sword, the space around him had been sealed. This was definitely a super expert. Hula! When the transparent sword reached the great ox, an iron rod appeared in the great ox's hand, and he smashed it down. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out, and sparks flew in all directions. That transparent sword was swung to the side by the great ox's staff. While blocking the opponent's sword, the great ox suddenly took a step forward and swung the iron rod in his hand, turning it into a series of afterimages as it smashed forward. Rumble! A thunderous voice rang out. The man in white didn't expect the great ox to take the initiative to attack. His face finally showed some seriousness. He collided with the great ox. He was already in the genuine immortal realm and could use the vital chi of heaven and earth at will, so he looked very relaxed. On the other hand, the great ox was only at the peak of the earth's celestial realm and mainly relied on the strength of his body. It was obvious who was stronger. However, the great ox was tenacious and didn't want to admit defeat. He continuously smashed 81 times in one breath, forcing the white-robed man to keep retreating. It seems that I really underestimated the people of the Tiandu Star Zone. The white-robed man finally pulled himself together. The treasured sword in his hand turned into a sword screen. Taking advantage of the moment when the great ox used up his breath and took a breath, the sword chi slashed out continuously like a surging river, forcing the great ox to keep retreating. In the end, the great ox's shoulder was pierced by the sword because of his realm, and blood flowed out. The great ox originally wanted to fight with his life, but he was stopped by Li Changsheng. You are very strong. My subordinate is no match for you. However, Old Huang is my subordinate. Since you hurt him, as his master, I naturally have to avenge him. Li Changsheng took a step forward. Haha, just you? I think you are inferior to your servant. After the battle, the white-robed man was very impressed with the great ox's strength. He knew that if they were in the same realm, he wouldn't have any advantage against the great ox. On the other hand, Li Changsheng might not be as powerful as the great ox in his opinion. Li Changsheng didn't bother to talk nonsense with him. He raised his hand, which turned into a giant palm print and slapped down. Insignificant skill. The white-robed man snorted. Just as he was about to raise his sword to meet the attack, his face suddenly changed. Under the giant palm print, the transparent palm energy on his side was instantly shattered. In the next second, he was sent flying by the palm print. Do you people from the Devil Sky Star Zone like to brag? Do you think you are worthy of fighting me with your strength? Li Changsheng flicked his sleeves and said with disdain. The white-robed man flew back from afar. He was in a sorry state and his hair was disheveled. He stared at Li Changsheng. Why? Are you not convinced? Li Changsheng curled his lips in disdain. Use whatever means you have. Fine. You forced me to do this. The white-robed man snorted. He raised his hand, and a giant cover covered Li Changsheng. It enveloped Li Changsheng and the great ox. It is just an insignificant skill. Li Changsheng didn't have any intention of dodging. In his opinion, The power of this cover was ordinary and could be easily broken. When the cover fell, Li Changsheng felt as if he had arrived in a strange, starry sky. He knew that the white-robed man had imitated the starry sky of his star zone to refine this magic tool. It was very effective against ordinary Earth immortals, but to Li Changsheng, it was just an illusion full of flaws. At this moment, outside the barrier, the white-clothed man saw that Li Changsheng was actually covered, and he couldn't help but reveal a smug smile. He waved his hand, and the cover flew to the altar next to him. Then, with a flash of brilliance, the cover disappeared from the altar. I came to the Tindu Star Zone to be the guardian of the ancient road. With such a dangerous person around, I'm afraid I'll have a hard time. But now, I've exiled you to the boundless starry sky. I'm afraid you won't be able to return for 180 years. By then, I'll have already left the Tindu Star Zone. Li Changsheng looked at the starry sky in front of him and punched out. Rumble! Suddenly, it was like a pillar of heaven stirring up the starry sky. The starry sky in front of him cracked and then shattered like a mirror. With a crash, it completely disappeared in front of Li Changsheng. However, when Li Changsheng broke the illusion in front of him, he was completely dumbfounded. He found himself in the starry sky again, and he couldn't see any flaws in it. What's going on? Could it be that this was the true power of this artifact? No, this is the real starry sky. Oh no, this white-robed man is so cunning. He used the cover to deceive me and then moved me to the starry sky. Li Changsheng gnashed his teeth in hatred. Last time, he had been tricked by the black-robed man. This time, he was tricked by the white-robed man. The demon sect was cunning, but he was too stupid. Chapter 1002. Li Changsheng knew that he and the great ox had been tricked and had somehow stepped onto the ancient road of stars. When the starry sky in front of them changed, they found themselves on top of a mountain. The wind was biting cold. Since we're here, let's take it easy. Let's go and see if we can find the guardian of the ancient road in this starfield. We should be able to return to the Tiandu starfield. Li Changsheng finished speaking. The great ox nodded, and the two began to walk down the mountain. At the same time that they arrived in this world, countless major forces in this world were alarmed. In the sky above the Devil's Sky starfield, a door suddenly appeared. Then, two rays of light descended from the sky and landed in the extreme north. Countless experts in the Devil's Sky great world opened their eyes at the same time, and countless voices sounded. It's been more than 10,000 years. The ancient road of stars has opened again. Someone has stepped onto it. Our Devil's Sky great world is the first stage of the ancient road of stars. We can't let the trial takers pass easily. At this moment, an old man walked out of the main hall of the Shinkei school. The bell rang, and all the disciples of the God Watchtower gathered in the square in front of the main hall. Trial takers from a novice village have stepped onto the ancient road of stars. They can obtain the blessing of the heavenly Tao by killing the hunters. Disciples of the God Watchtower, head to the extreme north and search for the trial takers. Under the command of the sect master, all the disciples of the God Watchtower headed to the extreme north. At the same time, all the sects in the Devil's Sky starfield were restless. Not long ago, the trial door opened. Trial takers of the ancient road of stars have stepped onto the ancient road of stars. Legend has it that killing the trial takers of the ancient road of stars can obtain the heavenly Tao. I'm afraid that the super sects of the Devil's Sky starfield will take action. To be able to step onto the ancient road of stars, he must be a genius. I just don't know what realm he has cultivated to. The entire Devil's Sky starfield was in an uproar. It had been more than 10,000 years since anyone had ventured onto the ancient road of stars. But 10,000 years ago, those who had killed the trial takers had all received the blessings of the heavenly Tao's providence and cultivated to an extremely high realm. Therefore, the trial takers of the ancient road of stars were like a piece of Tripitaka's meat to the people of the Devil's Sky starfield. It was even more tempting than the meat of Tripitaka. Within the Great Yu dynasty, the god emperor, who hadn't cared about worldly affairs for many years, issued an edict. He ordered the 9 first imperial princes to head to the extreme north to hunt down challengers. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I want you to head to the extreme north immediately and seize the opportunity. The only disciple of Sword Demon, who had once shaken the entire Devil Sky Star Zone, left the mountain under his master's orders. To the people of the Devil Heaven Star Field, the temptation of the heavenly Tao karmic luck was too great. No one could refuse. At this moment, Li Changsheng and the Great Ox had already walked down from the snowy mountain. This place was covered in ice and snow, and there was no sign of human habitation. It was unknown what kind of world this was. Li Changsheng and the Great Ox walked for a long time, but they didn't see anyone. He even suspected that there was no life in this world. After the two of them walked for another 1,000 miles, they finally saw people. They saw a herd of deer-like creatures digging for food in the snow. A little boy was riding on the creature's back. He held a flute in his hand and was playing a melodious tune. When the deer-like creatures sensed the two of them, they immediately fled in all directions in fright. The little boy jumped down from the creature's back and walked over with a frown. "Who are you? Why are you scaring my flower deer?" Li Changsheng was surprised to find that the language used by this little boy was actually very pure Chinese. "We got lost in this place. I'm really sorry." Li Changsheng apologized to the other party. "So you got lost." Only then did the boy reveal a smile. "My home is nearby. Do you want to take a rest first?" "All right." Li Changsheng wanted to understand this world. Hence, the little boy led the deer herd and led them on a long journey until they arrived at a valley. There were many houses built with stones in the valley. It should be a tribe, and the little boy's home was at the entrance of the valley. After entering, many people took the initiative to greet the little boy when they saw him. After seeing Li Changsheng and the Great Ox, their faces showed some curiosity, but there was no hostility. This should be a friendly tribe. After entering the house, the little boy brewed tea for Li Changsheng and the others. "Don't you have a family?" Li Changsheng was puzzled. When the boy heard Li Changsheng's question, his eyes showed some sadness. "My parents were killed in the last tribal conflict. I see that the people in your tribe are so friendly. How could there be a conflict with other tribes?" Li Changsheng asked. "Our tribe was indeed friendly, but the other tribes were different. Because of our friendliness, they saw us as cowardly, so they kept driving us away. The further north we went, the less food there was, so we had no choice but to pick up weapons. But in the end, our tribe was no match for them, so we were driven here. However, I have already sworn that when I grow up and awaken my martial spirit, I will definitely avenge my parents, and I will definitely help our tribe regain the territory that we have lost." Hearing the little boy's words, Li Changsheng clenched his fist to show his encouragement. Through chatting, he knew that the little boy's name was Ji Ning. Ji was a very precious surname in ancient China. The Yellow Emperor Xuanyuan's surname was Ji. The people in this tribe speak pure Chinese. Is there any connection with the earth? Do all the tribes here speak the same language? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the boy shook his head. "No, they have other languages. They are very different from us Chinese people." "You said that you're called Chinese people?" Li Changsheng was more and more certain that this tribe must have some connection with the earth, but he couldn't figure it out for the time being. At this time, footsteps were heard from outside. A man in animal skin walked in. "Ji Ning, the patriarch heard that there are guests. He asked you to bring them over." "Okay, Uncle Chun." Ji Ning nodded and then said to Li Changsheng and the others, "Our patriarch is very hospitable. Will you come with me to meet the patriarch?" "Okay, no problem." Li Changsheng naturally didn't care. After all, Ji Ning was too young and his knowledge was limited. Perhaps he could get more useful information from the patriarch. They followed Ji Ning to the largest stone house in the valley. When Li Changsheng and the others walked in, they saw that there were already many people inside. Among them, an old man with feathers on his head was sitting on the main seat. This outfit made Li Changsheng feel that he had returned to the primitive society. "Dear guests, please take a seat." The patriarch motioned for Li Changsheng to sit down. Then, the roasted beef and mutton were served. "Honorable guests, may I know where you are from?" The patriarch asked. Li Changsheng thought for a moment. We are from the distant dark yellow star region. We are descendants of a yellow emperor. Li Changsheng stared at the patriarch when he said this. As expected, the old man's face changed instantly when he heard the words descendants of a yellow emperor. Chapter 1003. The tribal leader's expression changed drastically when he heard the words descendant of Yin Huang. He stared at Li Changsheng. Are you really from the mysterious yellow star zone? Li Changsheng nodded. Of course. The tribal leader stared at Li Changsheng for a few minutes, then suddenly stood up, grabbed Li Changsheng's arm, took out a machete, and stabbed Li Changsheng's hand. The great ox suddenly panicked and hurriedly took a step forward to make a move, but he was stopped by Li Changsheng. The curved blade cut into Li Changsheng's palm, opening up a wound, and blood dripped down. A bronze statue appeared in the tribal leader's hand like a magic trick and let Li Changsheng's blood drip on it. The statue, which looked ordinary just now, suddenly shone brightly after Li Changsheng's blood dripped on it. At this time, Li Changsheng saw the statue's appearance clearly. It was a majestic man holding a sword in his hand. After the statue shone brightly, Li Changsheng suddenly felt an inexplicable force covering his body. At this time, a dragon-shaped pattern appeared on his arm and disappeared in a flash. What's going on? Li Changsheng's eyes widened. At this time, the tribal leader's face was full of surprise. Sure enough, you are really from the mysterious yellow star zone. You have been recognized by the human emperor Xinyuan. Li Changsheng immediately understood that the statue was of the human emperor Xinyuan. Only the descendants of Yin Huang could be recognized like this. I didn't expect that after so many years, we would see Chinese people embark on the trial road again. Although Li Changsheng had a lot of questions, he just sat down quietly. He knew that the old man would definitely tell him. Sure enough, the patriarch took a deep breath and said, Mysterious Yellow Star Field and Tiandu Star Field are the starting points of the Starry Sky Trial Ancient Road. They are also novice villages. The Devil Heaven Star region is the first stage of the Road of Trials. The Road of Trials has existed since the immemorial era. I do not know how it was established. I only know that it is related to a great emperor. After the ancient Road of the Starry Sky was opened, the trial takers who stepped on the ancient Road of the Starry Sky would possess a kind of great fortune. Every time they passed a trial, their fortune would increase by a bit. At the end of the ancient Road of the Starry Sky, their fortune would reach its peak. Since ancient times, everyone who had succeeded had become a great emperor. If a trial taker of the ancient road dies during the trial, the person who kills the trial taker of the ancient road will obtain the fate that the trial taker of the ancient road carries. From ancient times until now, who knows how many geniuses have stepped onto the ancient road in the past million years, but in the end, they were hunted down and killed. Some of them narrowly escaped death and eventually left the Devil Heaven Star Field to go further. Others were killed and became natives of the Devil Heaven Star Field. At the same time, there were also some who were seriously injured and eventually hid their identities. And those people are the ancestors of our tribe. Our ancestors concealed their identities and hid. In the end, they managed to fool the enemies of the Devil Heaven Star Field and survive. Although countless generations have passed, we still remember that we are people of the mysterious yellow star field. I see. Li Changsheng immediately understood. By the way, you have stepped onto the ancient road of the Devil Heaven Star Field. I am afraid that the major forces of the Devil Heaven Star Field have already known that you have stepped onto the ancient road of the Starry Sky Star Field. I am afraid that all the forces are now coming here to look for your traces. You will be in danger soon. Hearing the chief's words, Li Changsheng was shocked. He did not expect that killing a trial taker would allow him to obtain the fate of the trial taker. Wouldn't he become Tang Seng's meat? Chief, it seems that we have to leave. Otherwise, it is very likely that we will bring disaster to you. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the chief shook his head. It is fine, although you are trial takers of the mysterious yellow star field. As long as you enter this world, you will be the same as the people of this world. As long as you do not reveal your identity, no one will know. Otherwise, our tribe would have been destroyed long ago. How could we survive? Why don't you stay in our tribe first, and we will help you gather information. All right. Li Changsheng did not know where to go now. Since the chief said that he would not implicate them, he stayed with peace of mind. In the following days, Li Changsheng and the Great Ox were each given a house, and the two of them stayed temporarily. Very quickly, the news that the clan leader had found out reached Li Changsheng's ears. All the major sects of the Devil Heaven Star Field were mobilized, and all of them were heading to the extreme north. The various tribes in the extreme north were also on the move to look for trial takers. On this day, Li Changsheng was practicing martial arts when Jining rushed in. Big Brother Li, the chief, asked me to take you to hide first. The tribe that often bullied us and drove us to the extreme north has sent people. It is said that they have been ordered by the Shueshan school to look for trial takers of the ancient road. Chun Xian knew that there were many tribes in this world, and tribes had to rely on immortal cultivation sects to survive. The Shueshan school was the largest sect in the extreme north, and almost all the tribes here were dependent on them. Where should we hide? Since those people are the enemies of your tribe, why don't you take me to have a look secretly? This, Jining, was a little hesitant, but the chief asked me to take you to hide. It's okay. As long as we don't show up, they can't find us. Jining nodded and took Li Changsheng to the entrance of the village. Sure enough, they saw a group of people riding horses at the entrance of the village. By Delai's show, our tribe really isn't harboring trial takers of the ancient road. If you don't believe me, you can take people to search inside. We didn't lie to you. Humph. You old bastard. I'm afraid you've already hidden them. How am I supposed to search? Hurry up and hand them over, or I'll flatten your tribe. A man on horseback said coldly. How are we going to hand them over? Chief Hunter by D, we have already been driven to this barren place by you. What else do you want? It seems that you have some complaints. By D Lai Show suddenly raised the horsewhip in his hand and lashed it at the chief. The chief was about to dodge, but in the end, he resisted the impulse and let the whip hit his face. He knew that if he dodged, Bai Di would take the opportunity to cause trouble. Bai Di didn't expect that the chief wouldn't dodge at all. He actually raised the whip and lashed it at the chief again. Crack! This time, the whip was even fiercer than before. The patriarch fell to the ground with a single slap. The chief was about to get up, but the whip had already lashed out for the third time. The poor chief was now rolling on the ground. The tribesmen behind him were all gnashing their teeth in anger, but no one dared to make a move. If they made a move, it would give the other party a reason to do so, and it might even harm the chief. At this time, Ji Ning, who was standing behind the stone, clenched his fists and gnashed his teeth. Sooner or later, I'll kill everyone in this tribe and twist Bai Di's head off. Unexpectedly, Ji Ning forgot to lower his voice because he lost control of himself. The man on horseback heard him and looked over. Where did this brat come from? You want to twist my head off? I'll twist your head off first. As he spoke, he pointed the whip in his hand. His subordinates behind him screamed and rode over. Suddenly, Ji Ning's face turned pale. Chapter 1004. Take him down. Bai Di Lai raised the whip in his hand and pointed. Immediately, Bai Di Lai's subordinates rushed towards Li Changsheng and Ji Ning's hiding place. Ji Ning was so scared that his body began to tremble. After all, he was just a teenager. Seeing that their hiding place had been exposed, Li Changsheng and Ji Ning had no need to hide anymore, so they walked out from behind the rock. Those people surrounded them and brought the two of them over. Why does this person look so unfamiliar? I've never seen him before. Bai Di Lai Show stared at Li Changsheng. He's one of our people. We have thousands of people. It's normal that Bai Di Lai Show hasn't seen him before. The tribal leader said in a calm voice. There was no change in his expression. Is that so? Since he's one of your people, why did he hide and eavesdrop? Little kids don't know any better. They should be a little scared when they see Bai Di Lai Show. The tribal leader's voice was still very calm. There was no sign of guilt. Is that so? But I don't like people eavesdropping on me. As he said that, He raised the whip and cracked it on Jining's face. Immediately, a bloody mark appeared on Jining's face. He bit his lips and stared at Bai Di Lai Shou with hatred in his eyes. A little kid dares to stare at me. He won't be a good person when he grows up. As he said that, he ordered his subordinates, kill him. What? The tribal leader and all the Chinese people suddenly clenched their fists. What? You want to fight? You can try. Bai Di Lai Shou shouted coldly. At this time, the subordinate behind him had already pulled out a knife and walked towards Jining with a hideous smile. The cold gleam on the blade made all the Chinese people want to rush forward. However, the subordinate had already slashed his saber at Jining. Jining was so scared that he took 2 steps back, but his body was completely enveloped by the saber light. On the other hand, Bai Di Lai Shou had a sinister smile on his face, as if killing someone was nothing to him. Li Changsheng had already taken a step forward to meet the saber light. Ho ho, you've got guts. Since you dare to come out and stop me, I'll kill you all together. But I didn't care about Li Changsheng, who stood out. This was because he could sense that Li Changsheng had no cultivation at all and was not much stronger than Jining. Li Changsheng raised his hand and pierced through the saber light. Then, he punched the subordinate in the face. Bang! A crisp sound rang out. The subordinate's head was smashed into pieces and exploded. Red and white things fell to the ground. Then, everyone saw a headless corpse riding on a horse. After a few seconds, it fell from the horse's back with a plop. Bai Di Lai Shou and the subordinates behind him were all dumbfounded. No one expected Li Changsheng to suddenly make a move and be so sharp. After a long time, Bai Di Lai Shou came to his senses and stared at Li Changsheng. Kid, I didn't see it. You've been hiding your strength. Man, taken down. He might be the trial taker we're looking for. Bai Di Lai Shou wanted to avenge his subordinate, so he spoke nonsense. He didn't think that he would be so lucky as to be able to find a trial taker that others couldn't find. Moreover, if he had known that Li Changsheng was really a trial taker, he definitely wouldn't have dared to make a move. After all, every trial taker who could cross the ancient starry sky path to this world must have extraordinary strength. Therefore, a group of people rushed towards Li Changsheng. However, before they could get close, Li Changsheng stomped on the ground. With a boom, an invisible energy spread out from Li Changsheng. The subordinates who had rushed up were sent flying along with their horses. Good kid, it seems that I've really underestimated you. Bai Di Lai Shou pulled out the long saber in his hand. His body flew directly from the horse's back and slashed at Li Changsheng. The saber light was 10 meters long and extremely bright. As the chief hunter of a clan, his strength was also extraordinary. In response, Li Changsheng didn't dodge. When the saber light fell, he raised 2 fingers and caught the saber light in the air. The saber light, which was originally illusory, seemed to become real the moment it was caught. No matter how hard Bai Di Lai Shou tried, he couldn't pull the saber light out of Li Changsheng's hand. Suddenly, Bai Di Lai Shou's expression changed completely. Just based on the fact that Li Changsheng had caught his saber light with 2 fingers, he knew that Li Changsheng's strength was much higher than his. Then, Li Changsheng's fingers squeezed hard and the saber light shattered layer by layer. Bai Di Lai Shou's hand hurriedly let go of the long saber in his hand. He took a few steps back and turned around to escape. Li Changsheng took a step forward and directly rushed over. He reached out and grabbed Bai Di Lai Shou's neck, pulled him back, and threw him to the ground like a chicken. The rest of his subordinates got up from the ground and wanted to rush at Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng gently waved his hand and an invisible force whistled out. The soldiers exploded one after another under the sword Qi and turned into a mist of blood. Bai Di Lai Shou saw this scene and was completely terrified. Li Changsheng took the lives of so many of his subordinates with just a wave of his hand. He was simply a devil. Just now, you hit the chief and Jining. Now, I want you to kneel down and kowtow to them 1,000 times as an apology. Li Changsheng said coldly. The hunter Bai Di Lai Shou couldn't help but stare coldly at Li Changsheng. Impossible. I am the chief hunter of the clan. My status is respected. How can I kowtow to them? As soon as he finished speaking, Li Changsheng kicked his leg. Suddenly, his leg exploded into a mist of blood. With a plop, he planted his legs on the ground as if he was kneeling there. Bai Delai Shou's cheeks instantly became ferocious, and he let out a painful cry. How dare you treat me like this? Our chief won't let you go. The people of Shueshan School won't let you go either. You still dare to threaten me at this time? Li Changsheng directly raised his hand and slapped him in the face. Suddenly, his body was hit and spun a few times in the air. He flew 7 or 8 meters and fell on the snow. The blood under his leg instantly dyed the snow red. Since you don't want to kneel down and apologize, I can only punish you for the mistake you just made. Why don't I break your bones one by one, then extract your soul and refine it into a magic artifact with the soul refining technique? I'll let you suffer for eternity. I'm sure you'll thank me for giving you immortality in this way. Hearing Li Changsheng's words about being refined into a magic artifact and living a life worse than death, he felt horrified just thinking about it. Seeing Li Changsheng walk over step by step, Bai Delai Shou's fear grew stronger and stronger. I apologize, I'll kowtow, okay? He was really scared. He couldn't care less about his bleeding legs. He struggled to get up and kowtowed to Ji Ning, the chief, and the Chinese people. After kowtowing more than 1,000 times, he stopped and looked at Li Changsheng with a begging expression. Is this okay? Okay, then you can be on your way. After saying that, Li Changsheng drew out a sword and directly cut him in two. The chief sighed. After killing Bai Delai Shou, I'm afraid that the news of you hiding here won't be hidden for long. Soon, people from other sects will come to find you. Masters of this world, Li Changsheng smiled. I'm looking forward to it. Chapter 1005. Ever since Li Changsheng killed Bai Delai Shou, no one came to cause trouble for the Chinese people in the next half a month. Bai Delai Shou was an expert second only to the patriarch in the clan, but he had been killed by Li Changsheng with a single sword strike. Before they found an expert strong enough to deal with Li Changsheng, they would not rashly attack Li Changsheng. On this day, the patriarch came to see Li Changsheng. Mr. Li, I'm afraid you'll really have to leave this time. According to the reliable information I received, the 18 major cultivation sects in the Devil Heaven Star Field have sent their strongest disciples to the extreme north. They're going to hunt you down and kill you. Is that so? Li Changsheng was not surprised to hear this news. Cultivators defied the heavens and fought for opportunities between heaven and earth in order to eventually step into a higher realm. For the cultivators of the Devil Sky Star Field, Li Changsheng was the greatest opportunity. How could they let him go? Have those people all come to the extreme north? Li Changsheng asked. A large number of people have already arrived. In 7 days, they will gather at the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain in the extreme north. In the end, they will decide the strongest of the younger generation. Then, they will kill you and obtain the opportunity. What? Don't they plan to besiege me with a group of people? Of course not. Every heaven's pride has its own pride. Moreover, if you were killed by a group attack, your fate would be split into countless portions. In that case, no matter how great your fate is, it won't be much if it's split among everyone. In other words, only the strongest of each generation in the Devil Sky Star Field is qualified to obtain your destiny and step into a higher realm. So that's how it is. Silver Dragon, Snow Mountain. Since they treat me as prey, then I'll use the identity of the prey to kill the hunter. Li Changsheng muttered to himself. Li Changsheng did not know what the previous trial takers of the ancient road were like, but he had absolute confidence in himself. The geniuses of the Devil Heaven Star Field wanted to treat Li Changsheng as prey. This was destined to be a tragedy for them. Li Changsheng, I have a presumptuous request. At this moment, the clan leader hesitated for a moment before suddenly speaking. Please go ahead. Li Changsheng was still very respectful to this patriarch. Just because he was a Chinese people, they were willing to risk the risk of being exterminated to hide him in the tribe. This friendship was also deeply engraved in Li Changxing's heart. As long as it was within his capabilities, he would agree without hesitation. This child, Ji Ning, is one of the most talented people in our tribe. I want him to follow you and have you teach him something. Hearing the patriarch's words, Li Changsheng immediately nodded. He was quite fond of Ji Ning and was willing to teach him. All right, then I'll take him with me to the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain this time. I'll let him see the glory of those who stand at the top of this world. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, Ji Ning, who was outside the stone house, rushed in happily. Previously, he had been hiding outside to eavesdrop, afraid that Li Changsheng would refuse. He had seen Li Changsheng's strength, and he longed for super strength to protect his home and his people. Then I'll take my leave, clan leader. After Li Changsheng bid farewell to the patriarch, he led Ji Ning and the great ox to the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain. The three of them did not bring their mounts, but walked on foot. They also enjoyed the scenery of the Devil Heaven Star Field along the way. As they got closer to the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain, more and more people appeared on the road. They were all extraordinary cultivators, and some were geniuses of various sects who had come to compete for the championship. There were also many people who came to watch the fun. After all, the trial takers of the ancient road had not appeared for 10,000 years. In their eyes, Li Changsheng was a rare animal. On this day, Li Changsheng, Ji Ning, and the others were resting when a man's voice suddenly sounded. Ji Ning, why are you here? He raised his head and saw a very young man. He was dressed in white and had an immortal aura. He seemed to be very familiar with Ji Ning. When Ji Ning saw the other party, a happy expression appeared on her face. Brother Xian, are you also going to the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain? It turned out that Zhao Xian was originally a man from a tribe adjacent to Ji Ning's tribe. In the past, Ji Ning had gone out to herd deer and met him, and they became good friends. Later, Zhao Xian went out to gain experience, and Ji Ning's tribe had a conflict with another tribe. In the end, they were driven to a faraway place. The two rarely saw each other after that, and they did not expect to meet here. Who are these two? Zhao Xian looked at Li Changsheng and the Great Ox. Demon Ox Great Sage was still all right, looking like an honest farmer. However, Li Changsheng was different. Li Changsheng was still wearing the clothes of earth, which made him look a little strange. This is Old Huang, and this is Li Changsheng, Mr. Li. The tribe leader asked me to follow Mr. Li to gain experience. Gain experience? I really don't know what your tribe leader is thinking. Zhao Xian said disdainfully. He seemed to be quite hostile to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng did not know the reason for this hostility. Zhao Xian was accompanied by many of his fellow apprentices from the same sect, and each of them possessed extraordinary strength. It turned out that Zhao Xian had been chosen by an immortal cultivation sect during his experiential learning and had become a disciple of the immortal cultivation sect. Because Ji Ning and Zhao Xian had a good relationship, the two of them traveled together. In the evening, Li Changsheng was sitting alone, looking at the sky and stars. Zhao Xian came over and said, "Friend, you shouldn't have come here." Why? Li Changsheng asked without turning his head. Although Ji Ning hid it well, I have long found that they are descendants of the trial takers of the ancient road. Because of my relationship with Ji Ning, I often visit their tribe, but I have never seen you. This means that you have only recently come to Ji Ning's tribe. Your identity is clear. You are a trial taker of the ancient road. Hearing Zhao Xian's words, Li Changsheng still looked up at the sky, and there was no fluctuation in his body. So what? You admit it? Zhao Xian didn't expect Li Changsheng to admit it so readily. What's there to hide? Friend, I advise you to turn around and go back. I like Ji Ning very much, and I don't want him to be implicated by you. Do you know that you're playing with fire? Once people find out that you're a trial taker of the ancient road, this martial arts competition will immediately become a hunt for your life. All the heaven's prides of the Devil Heaven Star Field will gather here. Do you think you will be able to leave alive? Ha! What if I say that all the heaven's prides of the Devil Heaven Star Field are nothing in my eyes? You are really arrogant. Don't think that you are invincible just because you have stepped onto the ancient road of stars. 10,000 years ago, countless trial takers stepped onto the ancient road of stars, only to fall in the devil heaven star field. You are too arrogant. This will only harm you in Jining. After saying that, Zhao Ziyan angrily turned and left. Li Changsheng, however, smiled indifferently. Chapter 1006. The closer they got to the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain, the more cultivators there were. In the end, they were almost touching each other's shoulders. Li Changsheng was speechless. Is my attractiveness that great? Why are so many people gathered here? Zhao Ziyan had become more and more hostile towards Li Changsheng. In his opinion, Li Changsheng was the source of the disaster. With him around, Jining would definitely be in trouble. Finally, they arrived at the foot of the Silver Dragon Snow Mountain. There were many people gathered here. This martial arts competition was not open to just anyone. They had to be disciples of various sections. Zhao Ziyan's strength was considered good in his sect, but in the entire Devil Sky Star Zone, it was not worth mentioning. However, no one stopped him from going up the mountain because he was from his sect. However, when Li Changsheng was about to go up the mountain with Jining and the Great Ox, they were stopped by someone. This was because Li Changsheng's clothes were very different from Zhao Ziyan's. We also want to participate in the martial arts competition. Please make way. Li Changsheng said. May I ask which sect you are from? What's your name? A genius? You look like you're here to cause trouble. The man who blocked the way was indifferent to Li Changsheng's words. At this moment, Zhao Ziyan hesitated for a moment and walked over. He's my friend. Let him come up. At first, the man was a little unwilling. However, Zhao Ziyan said a lot of good things to let Li Changsheng go up the mountain. Li Changsheng, you'd better not cause trouble when you go up the mountain. When you come down from the mountain, you'd better separate from Jining. Don't harm him. Maybe I can give Jining an opportunity. Li Changsheng could see that Zhao Ziyan did not have any bad intentions. Huh? Zhao Ziyan shook his head. You have no idea how powerful the geniuses of this world are. You will become smarter after witnessing this competition. After that, Zhao Ziyan no longer paid any attention to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng followed Zhao Ziyan and the others to the top of the mountain, which was as big as several football fields. At this moment, many people had already arrived. When Li Changsheng and the others walked up, they attracted a lot of attention. Someone recognized Zhao Ziyan and greeted him. At this moment, Li Changsheng noticed that Jining's body suddenly tensed up as he stared straight ahead. Following Jining's gaze, there were a few people wearing animal skins. What happened? Li Changsheng asked in a low voice. They are from the same tribe as by Delai's show. That old man is the chief of their tribe. No wonder Jining was so hostile to them. According to Li Changsheng's knowledge, the reason why the Chinese people's tribes were driven to a barren place was because of this tribe. When he first met Jining, Jining said that he hoped that one day he would be strong enough to protect his people from being bullied. And Jining wanted to fight against this tribe. The tribe leader seemed to have recognized Jining as well. They gathered together and whispered to each other. Then they saw a naked, muscular man wearing a leather hat with strange patterns all over his body walking towards them. Seeing him coming, Jining hurriedly stood up and clenched his fists. Chinese people, boy, a few days ago our by Delai show died in the hands of your people. I didn't expect to meet you here. I'll take care of you today and trample on you Chinese people in the future. The brawny man had a hideous smile on his face. Jining subconsciously looked at Li Changsheng next to him. Although Jining has a certain talent in martial arts, he is still too young to fight against the brawny man. The brawny man felt Jining's gaze and also looked at Li Changsheng. Who are you? How come I haven't seen you among the Chinese people? But I advise you to stay away from the Chinese people. Otherwise, you will offend the white bear. After that, he stretched out his hand to grab Jining's shoulder, trying to grab Jining. Jining was suddenly scared and stepped back. The brawny man grabbed nothing but air. Yo, you dare to dodge. The brawny man attacked again. This time, He obviously used some magic power. His body turned into a shadow, and his speed was many times faster. With Jining's speed, he couldn't dodge at all. Just as the brawny man was about to grab Jining, Li Chongqing finally made a move. He took a step forward and then slapped the brawny man on the chest. The brawny man was directly sent flying. The faces of the White Bear tribe members, who had been waiting to watch the show, stiffened when they saw the brawny man being sent flying. Many people in the surroundings were attracted by the conflict and turned their gazes over. Who is that? That's the White Bear. The White Bear is an affiliated family of the Shuashan school. They are very powerful. I heard that the White Bear's patriarch has reached the Earth celestial stage. Many people around were talking about it. At this time, the patriarch of the White Bear, who had been sitting there, stood up and walked toward Li Chongqing. When he was 3 steps away from Li Chongqing, he stopped and looked up and down at Li Chongqing. Boy, your strength is not bad. You could send my warrior flying. However, you hit my subordinate in front of me. Don't you think you're looking down on me? Your subordinate came looking for trouble first. I just taught him a lesson. So what if I hit your subordinate? If you're not convinced, I'll hit you too. Li Chongqing's words caused an uproar in the crowd. The patriarch of the White Bear was very powerful. Although Li Chongqing had sent the brawny man flying with one move, in many people's eyes, the brawny man couldn't be compared with the White Bear. The patriarch of the White Bear was stunned. He didn't expect Li Chongqing to say such words. However, he was a little angry. Boy, don't you know you're courting death? I really don't know. Li Chongqing grinned. Boy, don't be arrogant just because you have some strength. There are many people in this world who can defeat you. The patriarch of the White Bear stared at Li Chongqing and said, Maybe there are people in this world who can defeat me, but you're certainly not one of them. So, I advise you to stay away from me so that you won't lose your life in vain. Boy, how dare you look down on me? The patriarch of the White Bear turned into a shadow and rushed toward Li Chongqing. He didn't hesitate to attack. It was a good show to watch. Do you think this young man will win or the patriarch of the White Bear? I bet the patriarch of the White Bear will win. After all, the patriarch of the White Bear is a master at the peak of the Earth celestial stage. The young man definitely hasn't stepped into the Earth celestial stage. The patriarch of the White Bear has the support of the Shuashan school. This young man dared to offend him. He's really bold. I'm afraid he won't have a good time today. Only then did Zhao Ziyan, who was chatting with his friend, notice the commotion. When he saw the patriarch of the White Bear rushing toward Li Chongqing, his face changed slightly. He wasn't worried about Li Chongqing, but he was afraid that Li Chongqing would accidentally expose his identity. The next second, there was a loud bang. Li Chongqing punched the patriarch of the White Bear's chest. The patriarch of the White Bear was directly sent flying. He fell to the ground and didn't move. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Chapter 1007. The White Bear chief was killed by Li Chongqing, and the surroundings fell into silence. Everyone looked at Li Chongqing in surprise. They didn't expect this ordinary-looking young man to be so strong. How dare you kill our chief? You're courting death. The other members of the White Bear immediately rushed toward Li Chongqing. Li Chongqing's eyes turned cold, and his body turned into a shadow. The next moment, the 5 people who rushed toward Li Chongqing exploded one after another, turning into clouds of blood mist and completely dissipating between heaven and earth. Many people were stunned. If they were surprised when Li Chongqing sent the White Bear tribe's leader flying with a single palm strike, then the sight of the 5 White Bear tribe members exploding into a bloody mist was terrifying to them. This was because many of the people present had not clearly seen how Li Chongqing had attacked. Whoever wants to avenge the White Bear, just come here. Li Chongqing stood there and looked at the people present coldly. Since he appeared here today, he didn't intend to keep a low profile. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? How dare you treat me as prey? Boy, do you know that the White Bear is a vassal sect of my Shuashan school? Killing a White Bear might not be a big deal for Shuashan school, But Li Changsheng killed the chief of the White Bear in front of so many people, which was tantamount to challenging the dignity of Shueshan school. What? Do you want to fight? Bring it on. Li Changsheng said coldly. He didn't take the people of Shueshan school seriously at all. You're courting death. With a hoo-la sound, the other party pulled out the sword in his hand and was about to attack. At this time, there was a sudden exclamation in the distance. The people of Shunkei school are here. In the distance, the disciples of Shunkei school in purple came in a mighty manner. After they appeared, many people took the initiative to salute them. As one of the few super sects in the Devil Sky Star field, the Shunkei school had a very high prestige. Even the disciples of Shueshan school who wanted to attack Li Changsheng withdrew their swords. I heard that the eldest disciple of the Shunkei school has already reached the peak of the true immortal stage. He is only one step away from the heaven immortal stage. It is very likely that he will win this time. Really? It is said that Shunkei school was the first to arrive in the far north. Their disciples have been searching in the far north for a long time. Unfortunately, they haven't found the whereabouts of the challengers. The first senior brother of Shunkei school said that the trial taker is his, and no one can snatch it from him. In the midst of the crowd's discussion, the 9 balls of light in the sky shone in all directions like 9 suns. Immediately, many people raised their heads and looked in the direction of the 9 balls of light. Although they were not close yet, a terrifying force was already spreading. The 9 first imperial princes of the Dayu dynasty have arrived. It is said that each of the 9 first imperial princes of the Dayu dynasty has a radiant body. Their bodies were born with light. In ancient times, people with such physiques had the potential to become holy emperors. 9 of them appeared in the Dayu dynasty at once. It is too terrifying. If the 9 first imperial princes all grow up, wouldn't the great Yu dynasty surpass all the sects in the Devil Sky Star field? Many people exclaimed in admiration. The 9 balls of light quickly approached and then turned into 9 figures that descended. Every one of them was wearing an imperial robe. Every one of them had a peerless aura. In an instant, they overshadowed the disciples of the Shunkei school. Great Yu Divine Dynasty was originally just a secular dynasty that depended on the sects of Taoism. But since the 19th emperor, it had produced many outstanding talents, and finally, it had reached the point where it could stand shoulder to shoulder with all the superpowers. Look, what is that? Another person exclaimed. On the mountain path, a young man dressed in black walked up the mountain step by step. On his back, there were 9 swords. Every step he took didn't cause any abnormal phenomenon. However, the moment he appeared, even the 9 first imperial prince of the Dayu dynasty had a serious expression on his face. He is the eldest disciple of the Sword Gate, Sword Maniac. It is said that this Sword Maniac has an innate sword body. Moreover, it is even more powerful than an ordinary innate sword body. It is called the Sword Emperor body. In ancient times, this kind of person was destined to become the Sword Emperor. This Sword Maniac is even more terrifying than his master, the Sword Demon. At birth, he was recognized as the master of the 9 swords passed down by the sect. When he was 7 years old, he began to roam the world. Until now, the number of sword experts that died in his hands is no less than 4 digits. This is a person who was born for the sword. In the midst of many people's discussions, the young man in black walked up the mountain. His gaze was calm, but there was a frightening aura in his calmness. He just found a random rock and sat down. The people who were sitting around him quickly left and kept a distance from him. Previously, whether it was the 9 first imperial prince of the Great Yu dynasty or the eldest senior brother of the Shunkei school, there were people who went up to befriend them. However, when it came to the Sword Maniac, everyone wanted to stay as far away as possible. The murderous aura on him was so strong that even Li Changsheng couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. It was indeed rare to be able to cultivate the Sword Dao to such a level. It seemed that the martial arts fate in the Devil Sky Star Zone was much stronger than that of the Tiandu Star Zone and the Earth. Today, they saw so many of the rare physiques in ancient times. The people of the Divine Armor sect are here, too. Another discussion came from the crowd. A group of people in black robes appeared at the top of the mountain. The moment the black-robed people appeared, Li Chongqing's eyes revealed a strange look. It was because these people were dressed in the same way as the person who had tricked him onto the ancient road of the starry sky in the Tindu Star Zone. I heard that the Divine Armor sect is responsible for guarding the ancient road of the starry sky. The trial taker of the ancient road of the starry sky only came to our Devil Sky Star Zone after defeating the people of the Divine Armor sect. The Divine Armor sect used to be the biggest sect in the Devil Sky Star Zone. However, it is indeed declining now. Li Chongqing's gaze searched the black-robed people. Unfortunately, he didn't find the guardian of the ancient road of the starry sky. This be *starred. After I deal with these geniuses, I will definitely go to the Divine Armor sect to rescue you. Li Chongqing snorted coldly in his heart. He was also a vengeful person. The other party had almost exiled him to the depths of the starry sky. How could he let go? Many geniuses of the younger generation appeared, but the martial arts competition hadn't started yet. It was said that they were waiting for the elders of a few sects to be the judges. At this moment, a group of people in white robes walked up the mountain. The moment these people in white robes walked up the mountain, many people's gazes fell on Li Chongqing. This was because these people were from the Shuashan school. Li Chongqing had almost fought with the people from the Shuashan school just now. Now that so many people from the Shuashan school had appeared, it was obvious that they were looking for trouble with Li Chongqing. As expected, the disciple from the Shuashan school who had been interrupted just now had drawn his sword again and locked onto Li Chongqing's position. Brat, I want you to kneel down and apologize for what you did just now. Otherwise, I will let you taste the sharpness of my sword. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.